Hello friends. This is Fiction Case. How are you all? So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto fell in love with jewelry Bonney in the world of One Piece? But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video. East Blue, one of the 5 seas of the world and the supposed weakest sea out of all of them, birthplace of the legendary pirate king, Gold Roger. This sea is home to many great pirates like Buggy the Clown, the pirate admiral Don Krieg, and the fishman pirate Saw-Nose Arlong. And at this moment we see a small boat drifting on the sea with a person in it and had a bored look on his face. "I'm so bored." The man was about 6 feet 1 inch with blonde hair with bangs on each side of his face. He had 3 marks on each cheek and ocean blue eyes. He was wearing a large thick white and blue jacket with blue accents with the kanji for maelstrom going down the back. The jacket was open, showing that he was bare-chested with a slightly larger athletic build with an impressive 8-pack, and wore 2 necklaces around his neck, one with a green gem and there was a golden tomo with a red swirl at the end. He also wore dark, loose pants tucked inside large black boots, and a red sash around his waist. Next to him was a bag that was full of wooden swords and weapons with different weights and colors and extra clothes. "Man, I wish something would happen. I'm getting sick of this waiting." As if fate was listening to him, a giant shadow blocked his light. He looked up to see a giant sea cow heading straight for him with 2 bumps on his head. His eyes almost popped out of his head as he quickly tried to row away. "Me and my big mouth." A few minutes earlier, not that far away, we see a slightly bigger ship that had green lines painted on it with 4 people eating on the deck with an assortment of food on it that had 3 people on it. The first one was a boy wearing a straw hat with black hair sticking out from under it with brown eyes and a scar under his left one with a bone sticking out of his mouth. He was wearing a red vest with blue shorts with a white trim and sandals on his feet. This was Monkey D. Luffy. The second person was a slim, yet muscular, long-legged young man with blonde hair and keeps his hair brushed over the left side of his face with an eyebrow that curled from the outer end. He wears a black, double-edged suit with a tie and a long-sleeved, button shirt that had blue stripes on it. He was Sanji, one of the newest crew members to Luffy and the cook of the ship. The third person was a relatively thin man of average height with short, scruffy hair, a scruffy beard, and a slight mustache. He has dark circles under his eyes, as though he lacks sleep. He wore an open gray jacket with a red sea serpent design on each side with a green shirt underneath, gray pants matching with his jacket, a gray headband with blue stripes design, and 2 spherical earrings on each ear. This man was Jin. He decided to follow Luffy after he defeated his previous captain, Don Krieg, and was welcomed by both captain and cook. The last guy wore a black shirt with a green coat and red headgear. He has plaid yellow shorts over and shaven legs and dark shoes and, like his partner, carries a sword. He was Yosaku, a friend of the pair and a bounty hunter from East Blue. Currently we see him pointing his hand between him and Luffy and waving it in front of him in a no-type manner as he held Luffy's stretched arm that was just about to grab some food off his plate. "What is he trying to say?" Luffy asked as he still tried to get the food. "No clue," Sanji said as he lit his smoke and laid back, and Jin just closed his eyes to take a nap before they got to land. As Yosaku choked a little, Luffy chucked the food into his mouth as the two looked at him weirdly. "It could use some flavoring," he said as he kept eating. Yosaku swallowed the food in his mouth, stared at Luffy. "I'm trying to say it's mine." "Oh really? Who decided that?" "I did. I put it on my plate, it's mine. That's how it works." "Well, I don't see your name on it anywhere." As the two argued, a shadow swam underneath the ship and back down again. Sanji heard a noise and told them to be quiet. As he looked over the edge he saw it coming back up. "Something's beneath us." All of them, including Jin, who opened one of his eyes, looked over and saw a shadow rising and the water start to bubble. "It's huge." As the object rose, Yosaku was freaking out and Luffy just looked at it without a care in the world. As the water cleared, a giant sea cow with a big round nose with a gold nose ring appeared. It had a cow-esque face and horns, green spots throughout his body which had a seal-like appearance, and scales on its underbelly. "Monster!" Yosaku shouted as he tried to run away, only to find that he can't. "A cow. It's humongous," Luffy said with excitement in his voice. "A cow? Swimming? It's more likely a hippo," Sanji exclaimed, smoking his cigarette. Jin looked at the beast with a raised eyebrow. That's a sea beast. But why is that thing here in East Blue? This kind of creature should only be at the Grand Line, Yosaku said as he looked at it with wide eyes. The beast looked at the ship with mild curiosity. What's it up to? Luffy said with his head tilted. Yosaku looked between the food and the beast and said that it probably wants it, as he was saying to give it to the cow before it tosses the ship over. Luffy punches it, sending it back into the water. Don't touch my food, Luffy exclaimed as he pointed at it. You did it. You're great big bro, Luffy, Yosaku says as the sea cow resurfaces, more angry now. He's gone berserk now. You want another? Luffy says as he pulls his arm back only to be kicked in the face by Sanji. Baka. Don't beat up hungry mortals. Maybe he can't find anything to eat, 'cause of injury or something. He then picks up a plate and hands it to him. Isn't that so? What compassion. Go ahead. Feel free to have it. The sea cow looks at him and the plate at the same time. He opens his mouth to eat it when Sanji kicks him backwards. Go to hell. What are you doing? Where's the love? Yosaku yells. That thing was going to feed on me as well. Self-defense, he stated as the sea cow rose once again, this time to crush them and their boat. Here he comes. He's gonna turn the ship over. As Luffy prepares to punch it, Sanji stops him, tells him he will handle this one. He then runs up the mast of the ship and kicks the cow in the neck. Collier shoot. Neck shoot. He then sends the cow flying and jumps back down on deck and continues eating. Now, let's continue with our meal, Luffy says with a little excitement. That was a nice workout. These guys are crazy, Yosaku says with a small sweat drop on his head. You're telling me? A voice said as a hand could be seen on the edge of the boat as Yosaku screamed at it. Luffy, Sanji and Jin stood up prepared to fight as the person climbed aboard with a large sack over his shoulders and in his hands. Man, what a rush. Nothing like a giant sea cow being thrown right at you to get the blood moving, he said as he got the water out of his blue and white striped bucket hat. Luffy perked up at the voice as he heard it before. Naruto? Is that you? Naruto looked up to see Luffy with 3 other men and smiled at him. Hey Luffy. Long time no see. Luffy just grinned ear to ear at seeing him again in so long. Hey Luffy, you know this guy? Sanji said as he and Jin relaxed a little at their new captain, knowing who the guy was but still kept their eye on him. Yeah, guys, this is my big brother, Naruto. Say hi, Luffy said as the smile never left his face. Big brother? Sanji, Jin and Yosaku yelled, shocked at the news. Yep, I hope my little bro hasn't caused you much trouble. Sorry if he did, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head, a little embarrassed by the awkward introduction. His shirt started to move a little, which Jin noticed. Hey, you got something stuck in there? They all looked down to see the bundle move before a little fox head popped out of the top and yipped at them. That nothing. It's just Yuki, Naruto said as he let the kid jump out of his jacket and onto the deck. It had orange fur with white on its paws and the tip of the tail. It was the size of about a fully grown cat and could easily run faster than one too. It's so cute, Sanji said as he went to pick it up, only for the fox to growl at him and try to bite his hand. You mutt. That's it, your dinner tonight. Don't you dare. Besides, she doesn't like new people. You need her to trust you first, Naruto said with his hands in his pockets, looking at his pet friend trying to eat the cook. Wait, it's a girl? Yosaku asks with his head tilted. Yep. And she has a huge dislike for perverts and womanizers, Naruto noted as he saw her growl at Sanji. He was looking at her, ready to kill it and cook it. Well, anyway, Luffy, what are you doing here? Don't tell me this is your so-called best crew that you got? No, this isn't, but I do have more, but we kinda have a problem with our navigator at the moment, Luffy said as he scratched his cheek while looking down. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this as he and Yosaku told him about Nami leaving them at the Baratie and going to an island where Arlong is located. When they were finished, Naruto was a bit wide-eyed at what they just said and asked them. Wait, does Nami have orange hair, brown eyes, is really beautiful and thinks of money all the time? Why yes, that does sound like Nami Swan, but how do you know her? Sanji said as he looked at Naruto with his eyes narrowed at the beautiful comment. Well, I met her ages ago on an island not far from where me and Luffy came from. She was having a little trouble with her village, so I helped her out with what I could do back then and made a promise to her. Naruto said as he helped dry Yuki off. What kind of promise? Well, I can't say. It's her place to tell you and I'm just keeping the promise I made to her, Sue. Yeah. Naruto said as he fully unzipped his jacket and squeezed out the water out of it. Okay. Luffy said with a grin as he trusted his brother greatly. But I want to get there quicker. Why can the stupid wind hurry up and blow? He screamed as Naruto had to sweat drop at his little brother's behavior. I see my time away from you hasn't made you any more mature or smarter, has it? Naruto questioned as Luffy ignored him and looked towards the sea and grinned a little. Hey guys. Luffy said as everyone looked towards Luffy who had a grin on his face. I just had a great idea of how to get to land faster. Naruto knew from experience that any plan Luffy had was a terrible one but decided to listen to him and see it out. He and the rest of the sailors would regret it soon. Just outside Kokoyashi village. Where am I? Asked a slim, somewhat dark-skinned teenager with medium-length black curly hair and a long nose, wearing an olive-green plain bandana, along with goggles on his head, brown overalls with a white sash and no shirt and a blue and white striped armband on his left arm. He also carried a yellow satchel over his shoulder. About time you woke up. A feminine voice called out as the teen looked over to see who it was. She was an average-sized young woman with short, light blue hair, with a red ribbon tied around her head, and tanned skin. She had a tattoo on her right arm going across her chest, a bracelet on her right wrist, wearing a beige sleeveless shirt, blue pants, purple sandals and pink lipstick. Sleep well? She said sarcastically. Who are you? The teen said as he sat up. I'm Najiko. I grow tangerines here, want one? After a brief argument and some introduction, the teen now named Usopp learned that Arlong had been terrorizing the whole island for years and Nami stopping by for now to drop off some more money and that she was working for Arlong. What? Nami's a member of Arlong's crew? Usopp asked in disbelief. Nojiko nodded and went on to explain that she and Nami were foster sisters, and that the house that they were in was where they grew up. She then explained that their mother was long dead and only she lived with Nami and that she joined with Arlong and betrayed her village. I can't believe it. She betrayed her sister, her mother and her village just to join with Arlong's gang. Yeah, that's about right. A real witch, huh? Najiko said. Damn, Usopp swore as he sat down. She had all of us fooled the entire time. Even after she risked her life to save my village. I don't understand, she seemed so happy with us, she was laughing and smiling. But she was in it all of the treasure. Smiling? Laughing? Nami? You don't say, Najiko said as she whispered the last part. We came here to try to convince her to come back with us, but I guess now that's pointless, Usopp said before he froze and dropped his jaw as he remembered something. Is something wrong? Najiko asked as she saw Usopp look over towards like a robot. I just remembered a crewmate of mine was unfortunately caught by the fishmen before we got here. Shit. I hope he's okay. I hope he doesn't kill me. Arlong Park in a coastline area near the ocean with a large building, boasting several stories, a large, muscular, light blue saw-shark fishman whose most distinctive trait is his saw-shaped nose. He has long, black hair with a widow's peak reaching down to his shoulders, under a brown ushanka. He has a fin on his nape, surrounded by his hair, and the gills are located on both the sides of his neck. He had a sun tattoo is on the left side of his chest, while another tattoo was on his lower left arm. He wore a short-sleeved, unbuttoned yellow shirt decorated by many black lightning-like spots, brown Bermuda shorts, a purple sash around the waist and simple sandals. He also sports a lot of jewels. He has a golden chain bracelet around his left wrist and 2 golden bracelets around each ankle, with straw-like decorations hanging from them. On his hands are what appear to be rings, decorated by colorful gems. This was the fishman pirate Arlong. He was currently glaring at a man in front of him who was named Roronoa Zoro. He was tied up and had short green hair with 3 earrings dangling off his left ear, bandages around his torso, wearing black trousers tucked inside black boots and a green haramaki around his waist. Zoro was looking at the fishman with annoyance as he was asked the same question again. I'm only going to ask one more time, Arlong said as he looked down at the tied-up Zoro. Why are you here? I already told you, ya half-fish bastard. I'm looking for a girl. You should really watch your tongue, human. Arlong said with a sinister grin as he spat out the word human. We fishmen are evolved creatures who can breathe on both land and water. We are naturally born stronger than your measly species. That makes us the lords of creation, and to defy us is to go against nature. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing you spout that crap, Arlong. A feminine voice called out from behind Arlong, revealing a young, average-sized girl, with short orange hair and light brown eyes, wearing a green sleeveless shirt, black shorts, high heels and a tattoo on her left shoulder. Zoro looked at the girl in shock as Arlong looked behind him to see the girl. Why are you always so serious, Nami? You're special. You are our greatest navigator and a valued member of this crew. Say what you will, but I'm a lot smarter than any of you, that's for sure, Nami replied. What the? Why are you acting all friendly with them, Nami? And what did he mean by, our greatest navigator, Zoro asked. You know this guy, Nami? Arlong asked. Don't be ridiculous, he's just another victim. I gained a lot of loot from them. You don't even realize that you've been deceived, and you still came chasing after me. You're just plain stupid, Nami said as she approached Zoro and sat down until she was eye level with him. So this is the person you really are. All along I thought that you couldn't stand pirates, Zoro said with a dark look. Surprised. Everything was an act. You'll understand better after seeing this. Nami then showed Zoro her left shoulder and he got a good look at the tattoo on her arm, which looked exactly like Arlong's Jolly Roger. That's... Zoro looked at the tattoo in shock. I'm a pirate, plain and simple. And a navigator for Arlong. Nami smirked at Zoro's reaction as he narrowed his eyes. Shahahaha. Arlong laughed. She had you guy completely fooled. It's no use, she's cold-blooded. She betrayed her family for money, so you really shouldn't feel too bad. She is a witch, Arlong said. Zoro watched as Nami's face morphed in one of pain and raised an eyebrow. If I were you I would just admit defeat and try to forget the day you met her. Zoro smirked at Arlong's words. I don't need to. Nami snapped out of her thoughts and looked at Zoro. 'Cause I never saw anything in her to be trusted in the first place. If she turned out to be a serial killer I wouldn't be surprised. Fine then, why don't you just get the hell out of here? I'm tired of your face. Nami shouted as Zoro's smirk got wider and leapt back into the water. Huh? Most of the fishmen there said, is he trying to swim away? Even if he tried, he's tied up. That human can't do anything. Leave him. Arlong said. That idiot, Nami thought before she jumped in after him, making all the fishmen watch in disbelief. She surfaced with him a moment later, both coughing for air. What do you think you're doing? She asked. That's my line. What do you think you're doing? You're cold-blooded, huh? Zoro said with a smirk. Nami scowled at being tricked by the swordsman before kicking his wounds, making him double over. You bastard, Nami said before she started walking away. Oi, Nami. What are you planning for him? Arlong asked. Lock him up. I'll take care of it, she replied back. Arlong-san. Arlong-san, screamed a fishman. What's wrong, brother? Arlong asked. My apologies, but this guy didn't come here alone. There was a long-nosed guy who was with him, but I failed to capture him. The fishman reported as Nami and Zoro's eyes widened. What the hell, Usopp? Zoro thought. You left me for dead and got spotted anyway. I think he fled into Kokoyashi village. The fishman finished as Arlong grinned at the news. Kokoyashi, huh? Arlong said. Perfect timing. Now I have 2 reasons to go. It's time to go have some fun, boys, Arlong said to his crew as they all laughed. No one saw Nami at the doorway clenching her fist tightly. Later in Kokoyashi village, Arlong and some of his crew could be seen walking through the street as the townspeople hid inside of their houses while they did so. They then stopped as they stood in front of the only man on the street who was sitting on a bench. The man had scars all over his body and was wearing a police uniform with short sleeves and pants and a pinwheel in his hat. Genzo was his name. So you're the fool who thought he could hoard weapons on my island? Arlong asked. That's right. Genzo said. It's a hobby of mine to collect them. Why? Is there a problem? Yes, there is. Weapons bring nothing but evil and bloodshed. It would be hard for me and my men to keep the peace as someone were harboring them, Arlong said. As they were talking, Usopp and Negico were looking at them from a safe distance. That's Arlong. He's huge. Usopp whispered. That's him, Negico said. He's a fishman. He's got another 20 villages under his control. She explained to Usopp about the tributes they would have to pay 100,000 beris for adults and 50,000 beris for children in order for them to keep on living. If even one person doesn't pay the monthly tribute, then what happened to Gosa village will happen to us. Arlong destroyed that town just because of one person? Usopp asked as he remembered the town he saw when he first came to the island. Najiko nodded and explained that those were the rules and Arlong and his men don't care about human life. She stopped talking when she heard a yell, and looked over to see Arlong holding up a beaten Genzo in the air. "Genzo!" she yelled. "This human has weapons," Arlong said. "Having them is a sign of rebellion. In order to prevent anyone in this village thinking of rebelling, I will kill him right here and now." Arlong. The fishman turned his head to see Najiko standing behind him. "We've paid your tributes for 8 long years, why would we rebel now? Let him go." The people from the town start coming out of their houses and protested towards Arlong as he continued to hold Genzo up in the air. "Holding weapons showed that he was planning a rebellion against me," Arlong said. "Anyone who dares try to go up against me will be destroyed. Rebellions will not be tolerated." "Everyone, go back inside," Genzo said. "It'll be pointless to fight against them. We can't let those 8 years we lived here go to waste. If we do anything now it will have all been for nothing." All the villagers stopped what they were doing as Arlong laughed before raising him higher in the air. "Well said, I agree with you. It's good to know that even disgusting insects like you enjoy being alive," he screamed as he threw Genzo towards the ground. "There is no way any of you will come close to the perfection of the fishmen. Shahahaha. Damn you. Don't move," Genzo shouted before the man could do anything. "Don't fight them, no matter what. Your deaths will mean nothing. You must continue to be patient. Even if I die." "Nice speech," Arlong said as he grabbed a hold of Genzo again and held him high above his head. "Pay close attention, humans. Let this be a lesson to you all," he screamed as he brought Genzo's head towards the ground. "Exploding star," Usopp yelled as he shot at Arlong. The explosion caused Arlong to release Genzo as everyone looked on in shock. "Huh, what happened?" one of Arlong's men asked. "Look, over there," another fishman shouted as everyone looked towards a building behind them and saw Usopp standing there dramatically with his legs shaking. "Who the hell is that?" "I am the great warrior of the sea, Captain Usopp," Usopp shouted. "Thousands of men all over the world fear me. They call me the Demon King Usopp. I have thousands of men under my command, all loyal and willing to risk their lives for me." "Arlong-san. That's the guy the first told you about. The long-nosed guy who got away," a fishman said as Usopp stiffened. "Bring on your thousands of men," Arlong said in a low voice. "I'll crush them one by one." "Repulsive human," he said before looking at him in a crazy manner. "What can a creature like you do to me? The exploding star did nothing and my threats didn't work, and he looks pissed," Usopp screamed in his head as Arlong picked up the building he was standing on. Usopp screamed as Arlong's men begged him to stop. "With Gosa village destroyed we can't afford to lose any more tribute money. If we lose some we can always get more," Arlong said before throwing the building into another one, destroying both of them and making the villagers shout about their poor village. After the dust had settled down, Usopp emerged from the wreckage almost unscathed before he took off running like a little girl when the fishmen realized that he survived. Meanwhile, Arlong was being held back by most of his crew as they tried to calm him down by taking him back to Arlong Park. Arlong angrily agreed with his brothers and walked back with half of them while the other half took off to capture Usopp. After the fishmen had left, the villagers had all gathered around Genzo as he was being treated by a doctor about his injuries when a familiar voice interrupted them. "Hi everyone." The villagers turned around and saw Nami walking towards them holding some flowers in her hand. "Long time no see, Nami," most of the villagers said before they all turned away and ignored her as she walked past them. "What's wrong? It's rare for you to come to Kokoyashi anymore," Nojiko asked. "I heard quite a commotion," Nami said as she looked towards the wrecked buildings with a sad look. "Arlong, huh?" The street went silent as the only thing that could be heard was the sound of Genzo's pinwheel flying in the wind. A while later, Nami could be seen sitting in front of a lone grave on a hillside overlooking the sea that had a simple wooden cross as a marker with the flowers she had set down in front of it. "I only need to get 7 million berries," she said. "As usual, your reputation is already getting worse," Nojiko said as she watched Nami sit there. I am a pirate after all. Arlong can be pretty reasonable when he wants to be, I just need a little more time and money. Soon I'll have 100 million berries, and I'll be able to buy the village back from him. Nami said with a smile as the wind blew past her face. With the way things are going now I might not even need to wait for him. She thought as she thought back to a blonde-haired man with a fox-like smile. I wonder if you even remember the promise you made. Arlong Park. Man, what a mess. Zoro said as he looked around Arlong Park. A short while later after the fishmen had taken him away and looked him up in underground, Nami had walked into his cell, given his sword back to him and told him to leave the island immediately and to leave her alone. After he had made his way back above ground he was met with a handful of Arlong's men waiting for him and attacked him the moment he stepped outside. He could now be seen sitting on Arlong's throne, now wearing a blue button-up shirt that was left open and looked over the bodies of the multiple fishmen he had defeated. She told me to run, but the only place I could go was here. Zoro said as he looked out towards the ocean. But, I did promise Luffy that I'd bring her back. I wonder what he's up to. This are getting complicated here. Naruto sat on the side of the boat and looked forward as he and the rest of the people on board saw Arlong Park in the distance as they slowly got closer towards the island. He felt the wind brush past his face as he narrowed his eyes in determination as he saw Arlong's hideout. Just wait a little longer Nami, I'm going to keep that promise I made to you. Naruto thought as he turned towards his smiling little brother. I know your plans are ridiculous Luffy, but I'm actually surprised that this one is actually working. He commented as he saw the sea cow that had hit him earlier pulling the ship towards land. Do you really have so little faith in Luffy's planning abilities? Jin asked. Yes I do, Naruto said as he continued to look towards Arlong Park. I've known Luffy his whole life and his plans usually end up with buildings being destroyed, him being thrown into the ocean or we end up crashing into something. I'm just waiting for this thing to backfire any minute. Jin and Sanji who was listening looked at the blonde with raised eyebrows before shrugging it off and looked toward the island. Yahoo! Faster! Let's go faster! Luffy shouted in excitement as Yosaku pointed towards a large structure ahead of them. There it is, Arlong Park, dead ahead. Yosaku shouted. Luffy grinned as he told the sea cow to speed up and shouted. Just hang on Nami, we're coming for you. Man, what's taking so long? Zoro said as he sat in Arlong's seat. When are you going to get here Luffy? 5 more minutes of this and I'll kneel over from boredom. He closed his eyes and tried to relax until he heard the sound of splashing water and someone talking to himself. He walked over and hung off the wall to see an octopus fishman with 3 fishing rods in his hands. He had 8 appendages, 6 arms and 2 legs, and an octopus-like face. He has pink skin and gray hair styled with 5 spikes. He has a muscular build and has suction cups on his 6 arms, which he can use to cling onto walls. He also has a tattoo in the shape of a sun on his forehead. What on earth are you doing? The octopus turned around and pointed at Zoro when he spotted him. Huh, who the heck are you? I'm Hachin, but you can call me Hachi. The octopus merman said quickly. Are you a fishman too? Zoro asked. Of course, I'm an amazing octopus fishman, and it looks to me that you are a human. Are you a guest? Hachi asked as he danced around and waved his arms about. A guest, Zoro said as he looked at the cut-up fishman on the ground. Yeah, I'm a guest. Arlong isn't here right now. Apparently there's some long-nosed guy running around the island causing trouble, but Arlong locked up one of his friends here and went to Kokoyashi village to hunt him down. Hachi explained as he went back to fishing. Usopp, huh, I guess I better go save him. Zoro thought before he jumped down towards Hachi. This Kokoyashi village, how do I get there? Get in, Hachi said as he pointed at a pot floating in the water. You're a guest so I'll take you there, swordsman. All right, Zoro said as he jumped into the pot. Hachi then jumped into the sea and began to swim with it to Kokoyashi village. A couple of minutes later Arlong and his men returned to the park and found all of the men knocked out with cuts all over their bodies. What the hell happened here? Arlong screamed as he walked towards one of his men. Who did this to you? Tell me my brothers. Roronoa, the fishman in Arlong's arms gasped out. What did you say? Arlong asked as he leaned in closer to the fishman. Roronoa, Zoro. He breathed out as Arlong widened his eyes. The pirate hunter. Here, has he come to collect my head? No, the fishman said with as much strength as he could. We had him. That man we caught, that was Zoro. What? Arlong said before another fishman named Chu came in dragging Usopp by his nose. He was a muscular fishman, with thick lips and blonde hair. An Arlong pirate's tattoo on his right shoulder. He wears a necklace, a striped blue vest, dark brown leather pants, and sandals. Chu, I found him Arlong, he. What happened here? Chu asked as he saw his brethren on the ground. Took you long enough Chu. Arlong said as Usopp opened his eyes and looked around. Don't tell me that Zoro. Whatever Usopp was going to think next died when he saw Arlong glaring at him with rage in his eyes. Chu walked over to Arlong and dropped Usopp in front of him. Catching this scum isn't enough to satisfy my hunger, Arlong said as he stood on Usopp's back making the marksman scream in pain. Usopp then tried to lie to the fishman by saying that it was a way he greeted people back home but was met with a dagger placed into the ground almost cutting his long nose. You're one of Zoro's men aren't you? It's natural for pirates like me to be hunted by bounty hunters like you. Arlong said as he moved the dagger ever so closer to Usopp's nose. While Usopp was cowering in fear at being gutted by the fishman in front of him, another fishman was checking out Zoro's prison cell. He was wearing a blue gi with a black belt, his hair is tied into a straight ponytail, a sun tattoo on his right chest and fins on his elbows. Usopp tried his best to lie his way out of the fishmen killing him but was failing to do so if all of them sweat dropping and giving him deadpan looks were anything to go by. What I want to know is how did Zoro escape? The fishman who was checking out Zoro's cell asked. What do you mean Karubi? Arlong asked. What I mean is someone let him escape. Karubi said as he showed a piece of rope to Arlong. It could be possible that Nami betrayed us and brought him here to go after you. She is cunning like that. The other fishmen started agreeing with him until Nami spoke up. Enough, Nami shouted. Don't jump to some silly conclusions without all the details. I swore I was a member of your crew 8 years ago. My loyalty is shown with this tattoo, she said as her grip her left arm. Hey, sorry Nami, it only natural for you to be upset. Arlong said, we're just a little on edge right now because of Roronoa Zoro and his gang of bounty hunters, he said as he looked at Usopp who was cowering before the fishman's gaze. Nami, Usopp said as Nami looked at him with a neutral look on her face, unaware of what was going to happen next. Off the shore of Arlong Park. I can see it. Arlong Park, Luffy exclaimed as he stood at the front of the ship while the sea cow continued to pull the boat along. It's about time, Naruto said as he stood up with Yuki on his left shoulder and his bag on his right. Come on cow, don't slow down now, Luffy screamed as they began to lose speed. It has to be, big bro Sanji's kicks must be taking its toll on it, Yosaku said while Sanji smirked in the background. The cow started to move its way to the right while Luffy yelled at it to go the other way. Where in the world is it going? Jin asked as he saw the cow start swimming straight for the shoreline. It's not slowing down, Sanji said nervously as it continued on a crash course for a large rock formation and they all started to panic, except for Luffy and Naruto. Crash. The next thing they all knew the ship was sent flying through the air as Naruto and Jin held on to the railing of the boat. Sanji had his body pressed up against the wall of the kitchen and Luffy and Yosaku were at the front of the ship. It's almost like we're flying. Luffy shouted. We are flying you moron. Sanji yelled as everyone held on for dear life. Is this what you meant by waiting for his plan to backfire? Jin asked Naruto as the blonde nodded his head while Yuki clung around his neck. Incoming coconut. Incoming wa. Naruto shouted before he was hit in the head by a stray coconut and fell over the ledge. Oh no, man overboard. Jin shouted. We're all about to go overboard, we're falling. Yosaku yelled as they dropped below the tree line and hit the ground, but kept plowing through trees. What is that sound? Zoro asked himself as he stopped running towards Arlong Park in search for Usopp when he felt the ground shaking and the sound of trees breaking. Hey Zoro. Looking to his left, Zoro saw a boat heading straight for him with Luffy on the front of it. His mouth fell open before the boat ran him over and continued until it crashed into some wetlands. Awesome, we're here guys, Luffy said as he dusted his hat off. What the hell are you doing? Zoro yelled as he got out of what remained of the ship. What do you mean? We're here to pick up Nami. Luffy said with a smile. Oh yeah, where are Usopp and Johnny? Usopp, Zoro said as he stood up. That's right, we have to hurry. He was caught by Arlong, we have to hurry before they kill him. He's already dead, a voice spoke up as they all looked towards the source of it. Standing there was an average-sized man with somewhat tanned skin. He was wearing a pair of sunglasses and has a black tattoo on his left cheek that was the kanji for see. He had short, black hair and is usually seen carrying his sword. His eyebrows seemed to be pointing down to make a scowl. What did you say, Johnny? Zoro asked, questioning if he heard him right. Big bro Usopp is dead, I saw the whole thing. Johnny said with tears in his eyes. He was killed by big sis Nami. With Naruto. Damn rubber bastard, Naruto said as he tried to clear some dirt from his eyes. If that boat crash didn't kill him then I will. He said as the top half of his body was currently underground. Yuki was in a similar state next to him as she yipped in agreement, or that's what he thought he heard. He wiggled around for a minute or so before he burst out of the ground with a victorious look on his face inside. He got out of the hold he had made and grabbed Yuki by the end of her tail and yanked her out, causing her to yip in pain and bit Naruto's hand, forcing him to let go. Easy girl, I was just helping you, Naruto said as Yuki growled at him slightly before licking herself clean. Naruto looked around and saw his bag not far from him and picked it up and checked the contents inside. Everything was fine. He then looked around frantically searching for his hat when he felt Yuki rub against his leg with his hat in her mouth. Thank you, Yuki, Naruto said as he patted the fox on the head as she gave him his hat back. He then started to make his way through the jungle with Yuki following. After walking for half an hour, Naruto thought he heard the sound of a cannon firing but shrugged it off and kept walking until he made his way towards the wreckage of the ship. Man, what a sight. This has Luffy written all over it, the blonde commented as he observed the wreckage closely. Hey you there, someone called out as Naruto looked behind him to see Hachi, Chu and Kurubi standing there. Hello there, nice day for a stroll isn't it? Naruto smiled as he greeted the fishmen. Oh yes, it is a nice day, Hachi said as the other two fishmen rolled their eyes at the octopus and glared at the blonde. Enough of that, who are you and where are you heading? Kurubi demanded as Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, my name's Naruto, and as for where I'm heading, I don't know, Naruto said as the fishman's sweat dropped. You there, what's your name? Naruto asked as he pointed at Hachi. Who, me? Hachi pointed to himself as Naruto nodded. My name's Hachin, but everyone calls me Hachi. I thought it was you, don't you recognize me, Hachi? Your friend from Sabayati Archipelago? Naruto asked as Hachi looked at him funny before gaining wide eyes. No way, Naruto, is that you? Hachi asked as Naruto nodded. Hachi then walked up to him and started shaking his hands. It's been so long, how have you been holding up? Good, at things considered. You? Naruto asked as they continued to talk like old pals. Hey Hachi, Chu, you know this human? Chu asked as he didn't like the way the octopus fishman was interacting with the blonde. Huh, oh yeah, I met him when we were kids and we hung out together before he had to leave. He's not a bad guy, he's fun. Fun or not, he's still not welcome here, Kurubi said. Well, don't mind me, I was just going for a walk. See you later, Hachi, Naruto said as he walked off and waved to his old friend. Okay then, see you later, Hachi said as he pulled out 6 hankies and waved them at Naruto. That's strange, he's the second human today who isn't intimidated by us, Kurubi said as Chu nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Naruto was having thoughts about those fishmen. So those must be some of Arlong's officers that Nami told me about. I can believe Hachi is one of them. I don't want to fight him, but if he get in the way I will. Naruto thought as he continued to walk down the road and straight into the town as Yuki jumped onto his shoulder. While he was entering the town, he saw Luffy ahead of him and shouted at him. Luffy stopped in his tracks and turned around to see his big brother safe and sound. Oh Naruto, there you are. Are you okay? Luffy asked before screaming in pain as Naruto gripped the top of his head and dug his fingers into his scalp. You're lucky that I'm not going to kill you right now for that little plan of yours. The fact that we're here on this island puts me good mood too, so I'm just giving you the Iron Claw and leave it at that," Naruto said as he let go of Luffy's head and the rubber boy grabbed it in pain. "That hurt. How can you hurt me like that?" Luffy asked as Naruto ignored him and kept walking. As Naruto, Luffy and Yuki made their way through the village, they stopped momentarily when they saw Genzo leading a bunch of Marines through town as well as the leader. The Marine was wearing a police uniform that resembled that of a rat as he had whiskers on his cheeks and rat ears attached to his Marine cap. He also had brown hair. Unlike the other mains though, he had a grayish-blue button-up coat that went all the way down to his feet, with a black belt and blue shoulder pads. "Crap," Naruto whispered as he quickly hid behind a building as Luffy looked at Genzo as the group passed him. "That pinwheel," Luffy thought with a big grin. "It's so cool," he thought as he stared at Naruto who had poked his head out to see if the coast was clear. "What are you doing, Naruto? Why didn't you want them to see you? You baka. Those were Marines from a nearby base, and I'm a wanted pirate. If they saw me they would have tried to take me in," Naruto said as he pointed towards the retreating group. "What do you mean? They're not that strong?" Luffy questioned his brother. "No, they're not, but I would hate to damage this town and the people in it," Naruto explained as he stood by Luffy and looked around. "You're a wanted pirate. Damn, you're slow," Naruto yelled. "Anyway, I need to look around and ask people some questions about this place. Are you going to be okay on your own?" "Yeah, I'll be fine. See you later," Luffy said as he started to walk away. Naruto just looked at Luffy's retreating form and went into a nearby cafe in order to get some more information on Arlong and his men. Crash site. "So you see," Nojiko said as she finished telling the crew the real reason Nami had betrayed them and worked for Arlong, and gave them all a stern look. "As long as you all stay here, and say that you are Nami's friends, you'll only make this worse around here. So please leave." "Sorry, no can do," Zoro said. "What? Why not?" Nojiko yelled. "Captain's orders," Luffy said. "We're not leaving here without Nami, and that's final," Zoro said as he relaxed against the tree he was sleeping on and drifted off into slumber. Nojiko couldn't believe the nerves of these people and just walked away with a huff. As she left, Sanji kicked Zoro to wake him up and started planning everything out with Nami's situation, and the cook commenting on Nojiko's hotness. Tangerine Grove. Just outside of Kokoyashi village was a small house, with a large tangerine grove outside of it, with Nami exiting said house with the bandages on her right hand as she looked up to the sky with a small smile on her face. "Only 7 million bearers to go. One more trip and Kokoyashi village will be free again, and I will be free," she thought happily before she heard footsteps. Looking to her right, she sees Genzo and some Marines walking towards her. "What are the Marines doing here? Are you the pirate thief known as Nami?" "The rat?" Marine asked as Nami had a blank look on her face. "I am Captain Nezumi of the Marines' 16th branch. Our sources tell us you've acquired a lot of stolen money from pirates. According to the law, all of that money is now government property." Nezumi finished with a cruel grin as Nami and Genzo widened their eyes. "Seize it, men. Search everywhere," Nezumi ordered as his men went to work. Kokoyashi village. With Naruto. In the village, Naruto was currently sitting down in a local cafe and was talking to an old woman about the situation with Nami. "So you mean to tell me that Nami doesn't know that you know why she joined Arlong's crew?" Naruto said, surprised at hearing what the woman had to say. "Yes, it's true. Nami is a sweet girl for doing that, but no one should have gone what she went through. I can't imagine what she must have gone through," the old woman said as she wiped away a tear that made its way down her face. Naruto had his hat shadowing his eyes as he thought over what the woman said before looking up at her. "Do you know where she lives?" Naruto asked. "I came to this island to help with this Arlong problem, and I want her to know that I'm here. I just want to make sure that she is okay," he said worriedly. "Sure. She lived just outside of the village. Just follow the road until you come up to a tangerine grove, she lives right there," the old woman said kindly as she pointed in the direction. Naruto narrowed his eyes when he heard that. That's where those Marines were heading, he whispered as he thanked the woman and left, wanting to know what was going on. With Nami. "Sir, there was nothing in the house, but these orchards look suspicious," one of the Marines said as Nezumi had an irritated look on his face. "Well, what are you waiting for? Dig up the grove," Nezumi ordered. As the soldiers started walking towards the orchards, Nami pulled out a three-piece bow staff and hit one of the Marines over the head. "Don't you dare touch Belmir's tangerine trees," she shouted as she started to attack more of the Marines with her staff. Is this what the Navy has come to? Dealing with a petty thief when a whole group of pirate has been harassing this island for years? That money is the salvation of everybody in Kokoyashi village. Do you Marines seriously think you have any right to steal that money? Genzo finished for Nami as he looked at the Marines with rage while Nami looked at him in shock. Genzo. You knew? She asked. We all knew, Nami. Everyone in the village does. We all wanted to help you but we couldn't. If you ever knew that the villagers were placing their hopes on you, you might never leave his gang for fear of letting us down, so we all kept our mouths shut. Genzo. Nami said in a quiet voice. Do you people have any idea about what you are saying? Nezumi asked. His answer came from right behind him. We're saying that the government can't be depended on. Nojiko said as she walked up to them. If you have no intentions of help us, then get the hell out of here. That's big talk coming from you, girly. Nezumi said as he turned to his men. What's taking so long? It 100 million berries we're looking for, not a grain of rice. He said, shocking Nami, Genzo and Nojiko. You rat bastard. How did you know how much there was? Genzo shouted. How much you say? I just had a feeling is all. Nezumi said. It can't be, Nami whispered out as Arlong's laugh came into her mind. Arlong sent you here, didn't he? She shouted out. Who knows? We're just doing our duty as honored Marines. Nezumi said with a sinister grin. You corrupt Marine scumbag, Genzo screamed. Since when were the Marines led around by pirates? Nojiko shouted. Nami clenched her fists as she listened to Genzo and Nojiko yelling at Nezumi. Sir, I've found it. A Marine yelled as he dug up an old-looking crate. Nami, Genzo and Nojiko widened their eyes as Nezumi made his way over to it and looked inside. He grinned with absolute glee as he laid his eyes on the goods. Incredible. I must say I'm impressed that you've managed to gather this much treasure. And 30% of this is all mine. Nezumi finished in his head as picked up a stack of old, bloody bills. Don't touch that, Nami said softly as she slowly made her way over to him. Don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch that. She yelled and started running towards him. Nami, Nojiko yelled as she and Genzo rushed over to her. Nezumi stood up and pulled out a flintlock pistol out of his pocket and aimed it at Nami. Just as Genzo grabbed her arm and Nojiko stood in front of her, Nezumi smirked and pulled the trigger. Bang! Ah! The three of looked back to see Nezumi yell out in pain as a fox was crewing his arm like a buzz saw, and a blonde-haired man wearing a striped bucket hat and had a bokken strapped to his left side was standing behind Nojiko with his right arm outstretched like he was catching something. You vermin filth! Get off of me! Nezumi yelled as the fox jumped off of the man and growled at him. He went to kick the fox when it backfired and it bit him through his boot, making him scream again. After the fox stopped, it quickly made its way towards the small group and jumped into Nami's arms. While the orange-haired girl was startled, she looked closer at the fox kid and widened her eyes in recognition. Why, Yuki? Nami said in shock as Yuki yipped happily and snuggled into her chest. But that means, she trailed off as she stared at the blonde-haired man as he slowly turned his head and smiled at Nami. Yo, Nami, Naruto said. And Naruto, is that you? Nami asked, not believing that the blonde was standing right in front of her. Yeah, sorry I'm late. I got lost on the vast ocean that is life. Naruto chuckled to himself as Nami felt relieved, only he could say something stupid like that. Who the hell are you? Nezumi asked as he glared at the blonde and the fox. Uzumaki D. Naruto, pirate extraordinaire. Nice to meet you. Naruto introduced himself as Nezumi and his men took a step back in fear. No way. Ocean Master. Naruto, the pirate that defeated a vice admiral. Nezumi asked. Former vice admiral. He was corrupt just like you. Naruto corrected the rat marine. He then brought his up and held up his index and middle finger and showed everyone what he was holding and shocked them. It was the bullet that Nezumi fired. This is your bullet, no? Naruto asked as Nezumi stepped back from the blonde. Well, you can have it back. Naruto as his arm became a blur. Nezumi felt something warm running down his cheek and raised his hand to it and found out it was blood. Sir, what should we do? This guy has a 85 million berry bounty on his head, we can't beat him. One of the Marines panicked as the rest of the men nodded in agreement. Nezumi gritted his teeth and made a decision. I don't care if he's worth 850 million. Just arrest him and keep him away from me. He ordered his men as they all reluctantly rushed at the blonde. Naruto just held his hat as it shadowed his eyes and stood there as the Marines brought out their swords and got closer. Pathetic, Naruto whispered as a translucent blue wave of energy washed over the area. All of the Marines except Nezumi suddenly dropped to the ground, knocked out cold as Nezumi was now sweating like a pig. What happened? Nezumi stuttered out before Naruto hit him in the face with his bakken and sent the Marine to the other side of the grove. If I ever see you or your men here again, you'll be sorry. Naruto said dangerously as the Marine captain and his now awake troops ran as if death was after them. Naruto sighed before he turned towards the three shocked people and smiled. Hi Nami, long time no see. Naruto, what are you doing here? Nami asked as she was the first to break out of her shock. What do you mean? I made a promise with you, remember? Naruto said as if he was answering the most obvious question in the world. Did you not think that I would come? He said in mock pain. And no, that's not it. Just that. Nami trailed off as she hugged Yuki tighter and Naruto laughed. Goohahaha, I'm just messing with you Nami. Naruto said as Nami pouted and handed Yuki over to him as the fox jumped onto his shoulder. Anyway, aren't you going to introduce me to your friends? Nami blinked twice before she remembered Genzo and Nojiko were still in the grove and turned to see them stunned. After Nami snapped them out of their shock, she introduced them to the blonde. Naruto, this man is Genzo, he helped look after me and my sister. Nami said as Genzo nodded at Naruto and he nodded back. And this is my sister Nojiko. Guys, this is Naruto, he's someone I met while I was out at sea. Nice to finally meet you all. Nami's told me all about you guys. Naruto said as Yuki yipped in agreement. Nice to meet you too, but what are you doing here? Nojiko asked as Naruto looked at Nami with a raised eyebrow. You haven't told them about me. Naruto asked as Nami looked down and whispered something. What was that? I said I didn't tell them because I didn't think that you were coming. Nami said in a low voice that made Naruto look at her in surprise before she walked right past him and out of the Tangerine Grove. Naruto looked at Nami's retreating form with sadness before he turned back to Genzo and Nojiko and told them he would talk to them more at Kokoyashi village. As Nami was leaving, she felt guilty that she had said that about Naruto and felt that she could never look him in the eye again. Her guilt turned into rage as she remembered what made Naruto come here in the first place and what almost took the money away from her to save her village. Arlong, 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 Arlong Park, Arlong. Nami yelled out as she made her way over to Arlong Park and stormed right in. Well, if it isn't my trusted navigator, what's with that look, Nami? Arlong asked. The Marines you bribed just come to my house and tried to steal my money. How could you? She said as she walked up to him. The Marines, huh? My, that's a shame. Cut the crap. Nami yelled as she grabbed Arlong's shirt. You promised that you would never break a promise over money. And I haven't broken that promise, have I? He asked. Don't lie to me. I know you teamed up with the Marines to, Nami said before Arlong grabbed her face, covering her mouth so she wouldn't talk, and glared at her with a grin. When did I ever break our promise? Tell me, Nami. Shahahaha. Arlong started laughing as Nami had tears in her eyes. Damn you, Nami thought as Arlong looked at her. Too bad, so what if the Marines stole your stolen money? A deal is a deal. If you can't give me 100 million berries, then Kokoyashi village is still mine. You bastard, Nami shouted as she pushed herself out of Arlong's grasp and started walking away. What's the matter? You're not thinking of running away, are you? Arlong asked as Nami stopped in her tracks and remembered Genzo's words from earlier. You can if you want, but just remember, if you do then I will kill every single person in that village. Shahahaha. Nami just stood there with tears in her eyes as she ran off out of the hideout. Shouldn't we go after her? Hachi asked. There's no need. Nami won't go anywhere, Arlong said as he stood up. She cared too much about that village to even try to do anything stupid. She is an excellent navigator, we can't just let her go just like that. You really are heartless, Chu. Chu said as Arlong laughed. I may be, but I will still keep my promise. Once she finishes making maps of the entire world, then she can have her freedom. Arlong replied before all of the fishmen started laughing. Too bad for her, it'll take decades to finish it. A random fishman shouted as they started laughing harder. Kokoyashi village, so that's why I'm here. Naruto said as he finished talking to the whole village. I made a promise to Nami to help her get rid of Arlong and his men, and I intend to keep it. I can't believe it. Nami actually asked for help. Naruto heard several of the villagers talking amongst each other, sending questioning looks his way. Naruto sighed as he stood up and put Yuki on his shoulder, who was being held by Nojiko while he was talking. Now if you excuse me, I must be on my way to visit Arlong. Naruto said as he started walking away. Wait! Genzo shouted as Naruto stopped and looked at him. You can't face Arlong and his men alone. It's suicide. They will kill you. He shouted and Naruto smiled at him and turned his head forward. Don't worry about me, I can handle them. Besides, he started walking as the next thing he said shocked them all to their cores. I didn't get a 85 million berry bounty on my head for nothing. He then walked away without looking back at them. 85 million berries. The town doctor said. That's more than 3 times larger than Arlong's bounty. Nojiko exclaimed as she looked at the blonde's retreating form. Just who are you? Naruto kept walking towards Arlong Park as he now had 2 Bakkens strapped to his side, and Yuki walked beside him and his eyes were shadowed by his hat. As he was walking he heard footsteps approaching and Nami running towards him with tears in her eyes and didn't see that she was going to collide with him. Nami could believe what Arlong had done and knew that once the villagers found out what he did with the Marines they would fight for her and most likely die in the process. She knew she had to stop them as soon as she got there. She knew that it might not work, but she had to try. She then hit something hard as she was running and stumbled backward before something caught her and pulled her back up. She looked up to see a familiar-looking face with whisker marks and buried her face in his chest. "And Naruto," Nami whispered out as Naruto stood there, not saying a word. "He lied to me." Naruto looked down at Nami. She cried into his chest. "He lied to me, right to my face, and I believed him. Why did I believe him?" Nami continued to cry. She then felt something drop around her neck and pulled back to see Naruto only wearing his Tomo necklace and his gem one around her neck. "Keep that safe for me, Nami," Naruto said as he leaned forward and planted a kiss on her forehead and walked past her, straight for Arlong Park. Nami stood there for a minute and brought her hand up to her neck and touched the stone as she remembered when Naruto first told her about it. Flashback. Nami looked at Naruto as she was currently standing on a boat at a dock as the blonde looked at her with smile as he sat on a pole of the dock and Yuki was trying to catch a butterfly beside him. The sun was currently setting as the sound of the waves was the only thing that could be heard at the moment. "I must say, I didn't expect the plan to go like it did," Nami said as she finished counting the gold she had collected from a recent raid. "What are you talking about? The plan went perfectly," Naruto said happily. "You call destroying a whole ship and almost sinking the treasure perfectly?" Nami asked as Naruto scratched his head. Nami noticed one of Naruto's necklaces flowing in the wind. "I've been meaning to ask you something." Naruto stopped scratching and looked at Nami for her to continue. "All this time you've been protective of the green necklace that you have. Why is that?" she asked as Naruto held the necklace in question and smiled. "This necklace once belonged to my father. It's been in his family for generations and was passed down to him by his mother, my grandmother, and he wore it until his death. My grandmother then gave it to me when I first unlocked my haki and I've had it ever since. Its worth to me is priceless," Naruto said with a sad smile. Nami looked down as she realized that she had brung up some bad memories for the blonde but stopped when she heard what he said next. "It's actually worth however is about 3 gold mines and the mountains on top of them, according to my grandmother anyway," Naruto said as Nami gained berry signs in her eyes. Flashback end. Naruto, she whispered as she clenched the necklace started running towards the village. Arlong Park. "Wow, you two look like shit," Naruto commented as he looked at a beaten-up Johnny and Yosaku as they were trying to stand up in pain. "And not funny big bro," Yosaku said as Johnny looked at him with a raised eyebrow. "You know this guy Yosaku?" "Yeah, he's big bro Luffy's big bro," Yosaku said while Johnny looked wide-eyed. "Really?" Naruto nodded. "Then what are you doing here?" I made a promise to Nami that I'll deal with Arlong and put an end to his reign of terror. And now it's time I keep it, Naruto said as he walked up to the giant gates of the park. Yosaku and Johnny watched as Naruto started to turn blue and his body begin to tremor before they dropped their jaws in shock as his body started to change shape. Inside Arlong Park. Shahahaha. What weak humans, do you think that they are a part of Zoro's gang? Arlong asked Karubi, who stood beside him. No way, they were far too weak. They weren't even worth killing, Karubi answered. That's for sure. Shahahaha. Well, if they weren't enough for you. A voice rung out as Arlong and his men turned towards the gates to see Naruto walking towards them. Why don't you try fighting me? He finished as he took out one of his bakken. And just who are you? Arlong asked. Hey Hachi, isn't that the human you said was your friend? Chu said. Is this true, Hachi? Arlong asked as he looked towards the octopus fishman. Yeah, it is, but I don't know why he's here. What's going on, Naruto? Hachi asked as he walked towards the blonde. Did you not just hear him, Hachi? He said that he was here to fight us. Isn't that what you said, human? Karubi said. What? That can't be true, is it? Hachi asked in shock as Naruto walked up to him with a blank look on his face. I don't want to have to hurt ya, Hachi, so please move, Naruto said calmly. Arlong laughed from his seat and looked at Naruto with a bored look. Hurt Hachi? I thought that he was your friend? He is, but I will fight him to get you, Arlong. Naruto said as he pointed a bakken at Arlong as the fishman laughed even more. You think that you can beat me, is that it? Pathetic. No mere human could even hope to beat the likes of. Arlong stopped talking when he felt his cheek begin to sting and saw blood running down his face as Naruto standing by Hachi like he was about to draw a sword before he stood up and glared at Arlong. Shut up, ya shark bastard, Naruto said as Arlong looked at him with bloodshot eyes. You, Arlong said in a dangerous tone. I seriously can't believe that you were a part of Fisher Tiger's crew. He would be ashamed of you. You know nothing about me, oh our brother Tiger. Shut your mouth, Arlong shouted as he stood up from his seat, angry at the human in front of him. Oh, you're angry? Good, I want you to fight me with everything you've got, Naruto said with a grin as he pulled out both his swords. Bang! Huh? Naruto and the fishmen said as they saw dents appear on the gates of Arlong Park. Bang, bang, crash. With the final bang, the gates of the park came crumbling down. When the dust cleared, they all saw Luffy standing there with an arm stretched out in front of him, and Naruto noticed that he wasn't wearing his hat, which surprised him as Luffy never took it off. Which one of you is Arlong? Luffy asked. What is with these pests today? Do you all want to die? Arlong shouted. Oi Luffy, you're late, Naruto said as he rested one of the bakken in his shoulder. Hey, that's the guy we met earlier, the one who likes to take walks, Hachi said as he was now over by the other fishmen when the gates went down. Luffy walked down towards Naruto and past him and went straight towards Arlong. Where do you think you're going? A fishman said as he blocked Luffy's path. Yeah, if you want to talk to the boss, you got to talk to us first, another fishman said as he put his hands on Luffy's shoulders. Let's talk. Move it, Luffy said as he smashed both of their heads together and walked towards Arlong. Arlong and his men all widened their eyes, surprised that a human could knock out two fishmen with ease. And just who might you be? Arlong asked as he was getting pissed off by the even increasing amount of humans annoying him today. You can call me Luffy, Luffy said as he stopped near Arlong. Luffy? And just what the hell are you supposed to be? He asked. A pirate. So what does a pirate want with me? Arlong asked, looking at the teen with a bored look on his face. Luffy stood there for a moment before he pulled his fist back, and punched Arlong straight in the face so hard that it sent the fishman flying to the wall on the other side of the park. The villagers and the fishmen gasped at the scene as Luffy snorted. That's for making our navigator cry, Luffy shouted angrily. Everyone looked in shock at what just happened. Arlong, the leader of the fishmen and terrorizer of the Konami Islands, was just sent flying into the walls of Arlong Park by a young teen. With one punch, some of the fishmen snapped out of their shock and charged at the dark-haired teen. You bastard! How dare you do that to Arlong? Let's get him! A bunch of fishmen who jumped out of the water, intent on killing the teen then and there when a series of kicks knocked them out of the way. Back off, you're all out of your league, Sanji said as he walked up beside Luffy. Jez, you had to go running in all by yourself. Don't worry, I can handle these clowns on my own, Luffy said as he stared at Arlong. Baka, Sanji said as Zoro, Usopp and Jin walked towards them. We're not worried about you, we just don't want you to hog all the action. I don't actually mind if you guys hog them all, Usopp said, sweating a little. I see you're raring to go as usual, Zoro said as he walked in front of Usopp with Jin following. Can that long nose even fight? Jin asked Zoro as the swordsman didn't answer him. Huh? Hey, that's him. The swordsman from earlier I was telling you guys about, Hachi said as he pointed at Zoro. That bastard tricked me, he got me look, sign and hinker. No wait. Hook, line and sinker, he corrected himself. Hey look, it's that long-nosed guy, one of the fishmen pointed out as Hachi freaked out. What? But we saw Nami kill him. If he's alive then that means, Shu said as Karubi finished for him. That I was right all along. That bitch Nami is a traitor, he snarled. The villagers looked at the scene with shock before they snapped out of it. Who are these guys? One of the villagers asked out loud. Hold it. Johnny and Yosaku said as they held up their swords blocking the entrance. That guy just sent Arlong flying into the wall with one punch, Dr. Neko said with his jaw dropped. No human should be able to do that, Genzo said in awe as Najiko looked watched with wide eyes. Now do you people know why we are keeping you all out of the fight? Yosaku asked. If you all barge in there you will only get in their way, Johnny finished before Genzo spoke up. But why are they fighting them? What possible reason could they have to fight? A reason? Those fishmen made Big Sis Nami cry, Johnny said seriously. Do they need any more reason to put their lives on the line for a nakama? Yosaku said just as serious. A pirate, I see, so that's your relation to her, Arlong said as he moved out of the rubble. I thought you were all some of Nami's victims, but you're just after her for your crew, aren't you? Shahahaha. Too bad she's with me. What are 6 measly humans like you going to do about it? You idiots aren't even worth Arlong's time, Hachi said, walking over chuckling. He'll be enough to deal with you. He then faced the ocean and made a trumpet sound with his mouth. The villagers and Usopp started getting scared as the ground started to rumble as the water in Arlong Park started to rise and the sea cow Momu appeared with a lump on his head. Oh, it's just him, Luffy said as Momu stopped and looked towards him and Sanji. So he's with the fishmen? Sanji asked as Momu remembered what the 2 pirates did to him and started swimming away. Wait, Momu. Where are you going? Come back, Hachi yelled as he waved his arms around. Arlong calmly looked at Momu's retreating form. Momu, leaving so soon? That's a shame, he said as the sea cow stopped and widened its eyes in fear. But if you're running away I won't stop you, right? He finished with a sinister grin. Momu floated there for a while before he became wild and charged back at the intruders with the fishmen backing him up. Luffy and his crew all got ready as Usopp kept screaming, I'm sorry, while running back and forth as the sea cow and fishmen got closer. This won't end good, Zoro said as he began to draw his sword for the oncoming fishmen. Tell me about it, Jin said as he prepared his tonfa tipped with heavy iron balls on the end and began to swing them around in circles. Ah. You're mine, you stupid cow, Luffy said, smacking his fists together. He then stomped his feet into the ground up to his ankles. Looks like he's got a plan, for once, Sanji said looking at Luffy. I've got a bad feeling about this, Zoro said with his hand on his chin. It's probably right, Naruto said as Zoro looked at him. Who are you? Sanji and Naruto's sweat dropped as he only just noticed him. Luffy waited until the fishmen had gotten close enough and spun around a few times before he stretched his arms out and grabbed a now crying Momu's horns. What the? His arms stretched, one of the fishmen shouted. He possesses devil fruit powers, Arlong exclaimed as Luffy began pulling on Momu. We should get away from here now, Naruto shouted as he grabbed Usopp and Jin's shoulders. Why, what's he gonna do? Sanji asked. Nothing good, now run, Naruto said. They all moved away from the rubber man. Alright. Take this. Gum gum. Pinwheel? Luffy shouted as he started spinning with Momu in his hands and destroying Arlong's building along with the fishmen around him. When he was finished, he let go of Momu's horn and threw him out of Arlong Park and into the ocean beyond. "Alright Arlong, that's it. I didn't come here to beat all your cronies," Luffy said, panting a little before he pointed at Arlong. "I came here to beat you, now get up," he exclaimed. Arlong just sat there shaking in rage as his eyes were shadowed. "How perfect. I was just thinking about how much pain you will be in when I kill you," he said calmly as he gazed at Luffy. "That was the worst plan ever," Sanji yelled beside Luffy as he lightly kicked him in the head. "Yeah, were you trying to kill all of us too?" Usopp yelled at Luffy. In the background, Naruto sighed as he facepalmed. "I guess some people really don't change. What a pain," Naruto grumbled as Zoro leaned towards Jin. "So who is this guy and how does he know Luffy?" "He's Luffy's older brother," Jin answered. "Really? He's Luffy's brother? Luffy has a brother?" Zoro asked in shock. "I'm right here, you know. You can just ask me," Naruto said, annoyed that people were talking about him behind his back, literally. "Such destructive power," Genzo said in awe. "I can't believe there's a human that exists that can throw that giant monster," the doctor said. "It's as if the gods themselves are fighting." Back with Luffy, he was fidgeting around in his spot and swayed from side to side. "What are you doing now?" Usopp asked. Yelled. "Are you trying to ruin something else?" "Do you even have to ask that after what he just did?" Jin asked. "How dare you hurt our brothers?" Hachi said as he knelt down to one of the injured fishmen. "Looks like we will have to get our hands dirty now," Karubi said as he gazed at the humans in front of him. "I think we need to teach them the difference between our species," Shu exclaimed. "Arlong sir, please let us handle this," Karubi said. "If you went on one of your rampages now you could destroy all of Arlong Park, Shu. Please just let us kill these weaklings," Hachi yelled. Naruto frowned at Hachi's behavior and wondered what happened to his old friend. "Okay, do whatever you want," Arlong said with his head resting on his chin. Guys. There's something I should tell you," Luffy said from his spot. Hachi took a deep breath as his stomach started to expand. "What the hell is that octopus doing?" Zoro asked as Sanji took a drag from his cigarette and smiled. "Octopus is best when it's cut thin and salted, add some olive oil and paprika and it make a perfect snack while drinking." "Why'd I get the feeling that you're planning on cooking him?" Jin asked with a sweat drop. "With white wine?" Naruto asked. "Don't encourage him. So listen to me guys, I'm kind of in trouble." Luffy waved his hand in the air trying to get any of their attention. "Take this. Zero vision. Hachi ink jet." Everyone's eyes widened as they saw the octopus spit out a torrent of ink and dodged it as it hit Luffy dead center. "You moron. How come you didn't dodge that?" Zoro yelled, asked as Luffy screamed about him not seeing anything. "Don't just stand there, Luffy. Run," Usopp shouted from behind a pillar. "Yeah, that's just the problem. I can't move my legs. I think they're stuck," Luffy said as he tried to pull his legs out of the ground. "You're the one who stuck them in the ground in the first place," Usopp and Jin yelled as Hachi walked over with a piece of the roof that Luffy broke off earlier and stood in front of Luffy. "One Hachi ink jet served on the rocks," Hachi exclaimed, throwing the roof down on Luffy as he cleared the ink out of his eyes just in time to see it come down on him. Arlong and his men looked with smirks on their faces. "Oi, oi," a voice from under the roof said as it slowly rose up. Everyone looked wide-eyed as it rose off the ground and Naruto stood in the middle with one hand holding it up in the air with a bored look on his face. "Geez, how on earth did you manage to get a crew with how you behave?" "To be honest, we are still figuring it out ourselves," Sanji said. "Same here," Zoro and Jin said. "Luffy's great. Hey," Usopp said, a little angered with what they said about his captain. Naruto took this time to chuck the large concrete structure into the water and cleared the dust off his hands. "But I got to admit, you guys picked right in choosing Luffy for a captain. He won't let anything happen to a Nakama," Naruto said. "You're right there. To be perfectly honest, it's better to have a captain like him who knows how to properly treat a lady," Sanji said, smirking as he looked at the fishmen. "A lady?" Karubi scoffed. "You rushed into certain death for one lousy girl? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." Sanji and Naruto glared at the Ray Fishman as the chief removed his cigarette from his mouth and knocked off some ash. "Lousy girl. You should watch what you say, fishman, or I'll turn you into fish sticks. Ya got that? Sanji said in a dangerous tone as he pointed his cigarette at Karubi. I'm sure you've got some skill, human, but chivalry from a pirate seems a little fake. Karubi said as he crossed his arms over his chest. Why don't you come and see if my chivalry is fake or not? Sanji said as he put the cigarette back in his mouth and had a stare down with the fishman. Meanwhile, Usopp was busy trying to get Luffy out of the concrete by pulling him but wasn't having any luck. Don't tell me that you're still stuck? Usopp asked. Yep, still stuck here. You can pull all day, but I don't think they'll come out, Luffy said as he started picking his nose with his pinky. Are you even trying to get free, or do you want to stay stuck? Usopp yelled, asked. Hachi watched them as he picked up another piece of the broken roof. Maybe no one told you, but the penalty for playing around in Arlong Park is death, Hachi yelled as Usopp started running. Ah! Get unstuck, please get unstuck. Oi, octopus. Zoro stopped Hachi before he could throw the roof. Those two are a bit busy at the moment. I'll be your opponent. He finished as he pointed his sword at him. NYU. Roronoa Zoro. I forgot about you. How dare you trick me? Hachi yelled as he brought the roof down on Zoro as the swordsman dodged by jumping in the air and landing a few feet away from him. And how dare you mercilessly slaughter so many of my brothers? That's old news, octopus freak, Zoro said as he turned around and faced Hachi. I don't care what you reason to kill me, as things have changed. You fishmen aren't the ones who will kill us, it's we who will kill you. Phew, good one, Zoro, Usopp said, wiping sweat from his forehead with his free arm. That octopus guy is yours, nice, he said as he gave a thumbs up with his other hand, letting go of Luffy in the process. Aw crap, Luffy, he shouted as Luffy stretched back. But because of his rubber body he went over the spot he was in and hit Chu in the process and knocked him down. Oh, you're back, Naruto commented at Luffy. So it seems, Luffy said as he swayed back and forth a little. Chu slowly got up and glared at Usopp as he was sweating and crying. You're dead, Chu said. I'm sorry, Usopp said weakly as he slowly turned around and ran away screaming. Get back here, Chu shouted as he ran after him but stopped when he saw the villagers with weapons in their hands. Aren't you people from Kokoyashi village? Judging from your weapons I can assume that this is a rebellion. I guess I have no choice but to. Exploding star. Chu didn't get to finish his sentence as he was hit with an exploding pellet and covered in flames. Did you really think it would be that easy? Usopp said. A fair distance away. Your opponent is me. If you want to die that badly, Chu said as he got back on his feet, I'll do it right now. Kya! Usopp shrieked as he ran away with Chu hot on his heels. You might want to go after him, he could get in big trouble, Naruto said to Jin as he sighed. You're right, I'll come back with him in one piece when we're done, Jin said as he ran after the two and left Naruto and Luffy without an opponent to face. This is getting ridiculous. Arlong spoke up as he started walking over to the group. This is getting boring. I just can't stand watching. But sir, there's no reason to go on a rampage. Think of Arlong Park, Karubi said in an attempt to calm Arlong down. I know, I just thought of a fun new game is all, Arlong said so Karubi wouldn't worry and walked towards Luffy. There you are, now you're mine, Luffy yelled as he went to punch Arlong but the fishman edged his head to the side and grabbed his stretched arm. Do you humans seriously think that you can win against us? Arlong asked. So what if we do? Naruto asked as he watched Arlong carefully. Everyone watched as Arlong dug his hand into the ground near Luffy and proceeded to lift the still encased Luffy above his head and had an evil grin on his face. Did you know that people who possess devil fruit power can't swim? But in any situation you would just sink right to the bottom regardless. Shahahaha. Arlong laughed as Zoro, Sanji and Naruto widened their eyes. He's planning to throw him in the ocean. They all thought as Luffy tried to hit Arlong again but the fishman caught it with his mouth and bit down on it. Ouch! Luffy screamed out in pain as Arlong continued to smirk. Fool, Arlong said as he prepared to throw Luffy into the sea when he was hit in the side by Naruto and hit Bakken. Let him go, Naruto roared. You should be careful what you say, Arlong shouted as he let go of Luffy and threw him towards the ocean. Luffy, help, slash. Luffy hit the water just outside of the park as Arlong started to laugh. Sanji ran up to jump in when he was stopped by Zoro. "What are you doing? We've got to save Luffy," Sanji asked. "I know, but if you just jump in there you will just fall into their trap. They will have the advantage in an underwater fight," Zoro explained as Sanji gritted his teeth before turning to Naruto. "Can't you go in and get him while he distract Arlong and his men?" "Sorry to say that won't be happening anytime soon. Luffy isn't the only one of us that ate a devil fruit. I would just sink like him a few moments after being in the ocean," Naruto said as he gripped his Bakken and glared at Arlong. "The best we can do is hope Luffy holds out until we beat these guys." "He's right. We have to finish these guys fast, then one of us will go after Luffy, it's the only way," Zoro said as he unsheathed his sword. "Let's go." "Right," Arlong smirked as he heard them planning. "Just how long do you think that rubber boy will last? The clock's ticking." "Oh, so that's the game," Hachi exclaimed. "I see," Kurubi said as both fishmen stood across from the three pirates. "You can take the fish," Zoro said to Sanji, "and you can slice and trim the octopus," Sanji said with his cigarette in his mouth. "And I'll make some shark sashimi with the bastard over there," Naruto said as he cracked his knuckles and looked at Arlong. "Let's go," he said as they all rushed at their opponents. "I'll kick his ass in 5 seconds flat," Zoro shouted. "We don't have more than 3, Sanji said. "Don't be in such a hurry to meet your ends. No matter what happens," Kurubi said as he moved his arm and blocked Sanji's kick with his fin. "You're not going to leave this place alive." Hachi ink jet. Hachi sprayed another stream of ink at Zoro as he dodged to the side and ran up to the octopus. "Just hold on, Luffy," Zoro thought as he swung his sword at the octopus fishman. "Arlong," Naruto yelled as he neared the fishman and raised his fist in the air. "Pathetic," Arlong said as Naruto's fist came down and covered both of them in dust. "Marshlands." "Ah," Usopp yelled as he kept running away as Chu was still on his tail. "You won't get away," Chu yelled as Usopp screamed more. "I'm doomed," Usopp thought. Not that far away Jin was still running to catch up to them as he stopped for a breather. "Damn it, how fast can they both run?" Jin asked as he continued running after his new crew member and fishman. "Arlong Park, I'm going to beat your ass real quick, octopus," Zoro said as he swung his sword at Hachi as the fishman ducked but got some of his hair cut off. "NYU, my hair, you bastard," Hachi exclaimed as he looked at Zoro angrily. "But that's okay. It's only hair. It'll grow back," he said, calming down. "Now then, Roronoa Zoro, you can't beat me. I have 6 hands that will mesmerize you." He waved his arms around as Zoro got annoyed. "Shut up," Zoro said as he charged at the octopus. Hachi's triple sword catch. "Now you will see my skills," Hachi boasted as he clapped his hands together in an effort to catch Zoro's single sword but missed. "Ow, that hurt," Hachi cried with some blood running down his face. "I don't have time to play around with you," Zoro said, panting and sweating a little. Sanji momentarily looked over to Zoro and saw the state that he was in. "Is he still hurt? Lose focus and you'll lose your life," Kurubi exclaimed as he sliced at Sanji with his fin, but the chef leaned back and dodged it. "A fish shouldn't fight back against the cook," Sanji said as he threw some kicks at the fishman only for him to block all of them. "Damn it, we're running out of time," Zoro said weakly before charging at Hachi again. "Why don't you die?" He tried to slice Hachi, but the octopus jumped up and grabbed the pillar behind him with his arms. "Too bad, Hachi suckers. Are stuck," Hachi taunted as he clung to the top of the puller, upside down. Quote, 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 "Don't just stick there. Get down here and fight," Zoro yelled at Hachi as he just smirked at Zoro. "Damn coward. With the villagers. That damn octopus, he's just trying to waste time," Johnny said as he looked towards Zoro. "But if we go into the water now they will just drag us down to the bottom of the sea and we'll drown," Yosaku said. "If we just sit here and do nothing then big bro Luffy will drown for sure. We've got to think of a way to help him," Yosaku said as Johnny nodded. "Hold up," Genzo spoke up, patting them on their backs causing them to react in pain. "What good are the two of you gonna do in the sea when you can barely walk?" The 2 bounty hunters leaned forward and bowed down. "If you're both trying to think of a way to save that young man, then I believe I'm that should volunteer before any of you. Genzo said. You'll save him? Johnny asked. His survival could be the key to winning this fight. If we don't save him then we could lose. Genzo, one of the villagers said before they started volunteering to go along with him. I'll go alone. The fishmen might suspect something if we go as such a large crowd. We don't want to interfere with their fight, Genzo declared as he turned towards the ocean. Hold on, Nojiko shouted as he was carrying a mallet with her. I'm going with you. Those guys are fighting for Nami's life. I can't just stay here and do nothing. Genzo stared at her for a moment before nodding his head and rushing off with her to save Luffy. Underwater. Damn it, I'm running out of air, Luffy thought as he was holding his mouth in an attempt to stop any air from getting out. Zoro vs. Hachi and Sanji vs. Kurubi. Zoro, who was still panting, looked up to Hachi stuck to the top of the pillar as the fishman looked at with questioningly. Hey, there's a question I've been meaning to ask you, Zoro. I heard you were famous for your three-sword style, so why are you only using one? Hachi asked confused. You're running scared with one, so why do I need three? Zoro said in an attempt to mock him. Shut up, I've just been playing around with you. Truth is human swordsmen can beat me, I could tell you why but I think it would be better to show you. Hachi said with a grin. Damn it, I can't fight back the pain, Zoro thought as he began to feel lightheaded. And my fever's getting worse. I thought I could walk it off but, he finished as he began to wobble. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Crap, I thought so, you still hasn't recovered yet, from your fright with Hawkeye. Sanji said looking at Zoro. HMPH, I'm not stupid. I won't fall for the old injured animal routine. That's for children, Hachi said as he began to climb up the pillar. Be right back. Time for you to see what my true skills really are. He then went on the undamaged part of the roof and climbed through a window. Everyone then looked at the same part of the building exploded multiple times and debris flew everywhere before Hachi came out again and put his back to the wall breathing heavily. Wow, it's a madhouse in there, Hachi said and he moved towards the ledge of the roof. But besides that I got what I needed. Now, prepare to tremble at Hachi's fearsome six-sword style, he said as he waved his blades around in the air as Zoro just collapsed. Hey, you're not supposed to die yet. I haven't even killed you, Hachi yelled at Zoro. No, Zoro, Yosaku yelled. I knew it, he's been enduring it all this time, Johnny exclaimed. So true, all of those wounds on his body would kill any normal person but he tries to fight anyway, Yosaku said as the doctor looked at them. What did you say? He asked, yelled. Zoro was panting on the ground as Sanji cured at his condition. I thought it was strange he could just walk around like nothing happened after a fight like that. He's laid out flat, he didn't finish what he was saying when he sensed something. He turned around only for Kurubi's fist to hit his stomach and send him flying through the wall of Arlong Park and land a couple of meters away. I told you to pay attention to me, you weakling. I'm a 40th Dan in Fishman Karate, Kurubi said with his arms stretched out. Brother Cook, Yosaku and Johnny yelled. These humans sure made quite the mess here, Kurubi commented as he looked around the park. He then looked towards Hachi. Hey Hachi, have you seen Arlong? He asked as the octopus fishman widened his eyes. Oh, that's right, Arlong is inside the building right now fighting, Hachi said in panic. What, if he continues to fight in there the park will be destroyed. Who is he fighting? Kurubi asked. He's fighting. Crash. Kurubi and Hachi looked up to see something fly out of the roof of the building and land a couple of feet away from them and widened their eyes at who they saw. Arlong. They yelled in shock. Yes, keep it down, Naruto's voice called out as everyone looked towards the entrance of the building to see the blonde walking out with one bakken in hand and rubbing his neck. I thought for a moment there I would be finished and have a nap. You, what did you do to Arlong? Hachi asked his old friend. What does it look like? I was kicking his ass, Naruto said. You bastard, Kurubi said as he ran up to Naruto. How dare you do that to Arlong? He yelled as he tried to hit his head but the blonde ducked down into a stance that reminded the fishman of a toad and shadowed his eyes with his hat. Frog strike, Naruto whispered as he delivered a powerful open-handed strike to Kurubi's midsection and made him cough up blood. What, that was, the fishman thought before he was sent flying back towards Hachi. "Nyu, Kurubi," Hachi screamed as he checked on his brother. "I don't have time to deal with small fry like him," Naruto said as he gazed at Kurubi before looking towards Arlong. "I hope you're not done yet, ya shark bastard. I haven't even given you a proper beat down yet. Nyu, Naruto, you will pay for what you did," Hachi yelled as Naruto raised his Bakken. "Hey octopus." Both Naruto and Hachi looked over to see Zoro standing up with one hand on his knee and looking down. "Your fight is with me. You're not dead," Hachi said in shock. "Let me make one thing clear, you sorry excuse for a swordsman," Zoro said. "There's a certain man I need to face, and until I see him, death himself cannot touch me," he said as he raised his head and glared at the octopus. Naruto looked at Zoro and smirked at the swordsman's determination and wondered who he was talking about but shrugged it off. "He's still alive," the doctor yelled as everyone looked to see Sanji walking back into Arlong Park with a new cigarette and didn't look fazed by the fishman's earlier punch. "That fish bastard's punch was all he could do," Sanji said as he breathed out some smoke. "The old man's kicks would have been a 400th dawn in that case. And I didn't even die," he commented. Back with the swordsman, Hachi was standing ready with all 6 swords in hands, and Zoro took his bandana from around his arm and tied it around his head as he put his sword in his mouth. "What's wrong with you, Zoro? You seem to be suffering on your own," Hachi said as he looked at the swordsman. "Just shut up and mind your own business, you bottom feeder," Zoro said seriously. "Nyu, Johnny, Yosaku, lend me your swords," he yelled. "Ask them." Of course, they both yelled as they threw their swords towards Zoro. "Catch big bro. TCH, I don't know how much longer I can last," Zoro thought as his vision became blurry. "Ha, now I'll show you why simple two-handed humans can never beat me." 6 swords style tentacle sword overload, Hachi yelled as he waved his swords around while charging at Zoro. "Big bro," Yosaku and Johnny yelled. Just before Hachi struck, Zoro caught both swords and used them to block Hachi's attacks while twisting his body around before cutting Hachi's stomach with the 3rd sword. 3 swords style, Zoro said as he stood behind Hachi with steaming swords. Streaming wolf swords. They both stood there for a moment before Hachi screamed in pain and blood flew from his chest. "Nyu," he countered the 6 swords style. Yosaku and Johnny yelled. Those movements were flawless, no wasted energy whatsoever, Naruto thought as he looked at the panting Zoro. "Amazing. He will become a great swordsman one day," he finished as Hachi turned around and showed an X-shaped cut on his chest. "Grr, how dare you cut me like that? Now I'm really mad, I'll kill ya bastard," Hachi yelled. "There's no way you'll survive my next attack. You just got lucky is all, you'll never beat my 6 swords with your 3. "That's a big mistake," Zoro said with his eyes shadowed. He then turned around and glared at the octopus fishman. 3 swords. 6 swords, it doesn't matter. You may have more swords than me, but mine will always carry more weight than yours." Hachi stared at him for a second before speaking up. "Weight you say?" he asked. "It may not look like it, but my sword weighed about 300 kilograms each. They're much heavier than any human swords." "I meant the burden of forget it," Zoro said with a sweat drop. "Take this." 6 swords style, octopus pot stance. Hachi brought the tips of his swords together and charged at Zoro. "New Year's." Zoro blocked him with all 3 swords as Hachi smirked. "Open," Hachi yelled as he split their swords apart and continued charging. Body slam. He headbutted him on his wounds and sent him into the air. "Cheap shot," Yosaku shouted. "Disgraceful swordsmanship, Hachi," Naruto thought as he saw Hachi run after Zoro. "You'll never touch the ground alive," Hachi yelled as he brought his swords over his head and started spinning them like a fan blade. Waltz of the 6 swords. Turn into mincemeat. "Oh no, if he touches those he's done for," Johnny said as Zoro fell on the rotating blades and started spinning. Kurubi and a now awake Arlong watched with smirks as they watched Zoro turn to shreds. "Ah!" Hachi screamed in pain as Zoro landed in front of him, leaning on one leg with one sword behind his back and the other in front of him. "Damn it! First you rolled and dodged my tentacle sword overload, then you slice and dice my hands up like some cheap sushi chef." How dare you make a mockery out of me? You'll pay for that, you Sanuva bitch. As Hachi was yelling, Zoro, who had his back turned, was breathing heavily and stumbled a little. That last attack probably opened up his wounds again. The doctor with the villagers commented as they all saw the state Zoro was in. Even if this wound would kill a normal man, I am not allowed to fail, Zoro thought as he stood up straight. Six swords style, octopus pot stance. Time to die, Zoro, Hachi exclaimed as he charged at Zoro again. My body cannot feel pain, it must not. New Year's. If I'm ever going to face Hawkeyes again, I must be extraordinary. Dragon, Twister, Zoro yelled. He spun his swords to create a dragon-like tornado that broke Hachi's swords, slashed him and sent him into the air. Now do you see the weight I carry on my swords, Octopus? How? I lost. To 3 swords. Hachi thought before he hit the ground unconscious. All the villagers looked in disbelief as a human defeated one of the fishmen while Arlong and Karubi looked pissed. Kokoyashi Village. Nami was back home bandaging the stab wound she gave herself after the villagers had left for Arlong Park and was now wearing Luffy's straw hat on her head as she wiped away some tears. No more crying, and no more whining, she thought to herself as he grabbed her staff and ran towards Arlong Park. I've got to go, they're all fighting for me. Marshlands. What a wimp, Chu said as he looked down at a bleeding Usopp. All it took was one blast from my squirt gun to finish him. I guess it's time to head back now, they've probably killed his friends anyway. Chu said as he started to walk away. Dead. Usopp smirked as he heard the fishman walking away. He, it worked. I'm so glad I made the ketchup star for these occasions. Usopp thought as he watched Chu walk away. These fishmen are too powerful, I don't even know what I'm doing here. When Chu was a safe distance away, Usopp sat up. Chu stopped for a moment and looked back at Usopp to see him on the ground again. Must have been my imagination, he said as he kept walking. I'll gladly hide from death, death is scary, Usopp thought as he sat up once again. I'm covered in fake blood, but I need to look a little more beat up, like I thought bravely. I know, maybe if I get myself dirty then it'll seem more realistic. He then began to rub some dirt on his arm. But what to say? Maybe. Oh, sorry I got lost. Yeah, that's good. No, I did my best but he got me. Or, I got so close to the bastard but he got away. That sounds better. As he kept rubbing the dirt on, thoughts of his friends and the villagers flashed through his mind. We're Nakama, aren't we? So get on. Or, don't cry, Nami, we all did our best. I'd rather die than be defeated. Or, we all each fought bravely. To be perfectly honest, it's better to have a captain like him who knows how to properly treat a lady. Maybe. It was a deadly situation. For the sake of my own ambitions, this was my only choice. Or, my wounds are that serious. A reason. Those fishmen made big sis Nami cry. Did they need any more reason to put their lives on the line for a Nakama? You guys picked right in choosing Luffy as a captain. He won't let anything happen to a Nakama. Can you imagine how hard it's been for her? We shall fight. Usopp stared down at the ground as the images of Kaya, Carrot, Onion and Pepper came onto his mind and tried to hold back his tears. I'm so pathetic. Time to stop being a coward, Usopp thought as he stood up, wiped his eyes, and glared in Chu's direction. Stop right there, you fish freak, he shouted. Chu stopped in his tracks, which made Usopp jump in fright. Oh, you're still alive, Chu said as he looked back at Usopp with a bored glare. That's right, big lips. It'll take more than some spit to take care of me, Usopp yelled as he searched for something in his satchel. When I left home, I left everything behind. Peace, safety, Usopp thought as he took his Ginga Pachinko out. When you live your life on the edge, you savor every moment. That's why they're able to laugh so much. He aimed his slingshot at Chu as the fishman started running towards him. That's the reason I went to sea. I wanna laugh that way too. He pulled his slingshot back and aimed at the fishman. But if I don't fight with everything I got, then there's no way I deserve to be on the same ship as them. And I'll never be able to face my friends again, he shouted as he shot an exploding star and hit Chu. The fishman lunged through the exploding star and punched Usopp straight in the face, smacking his head into the ground before flipping and landing a few feet from a bleeding Usopp lying on the ground. Fool, you were better off pretending to be dead. I guess you're a little slow in the head. Shu said. Is it over already? Usopp asked, bleeding on the ground. Yeah, it is. Just like you are, Shu said as he kicked Usopp. Stop it, Usopp said as he went through his bag again. Usopp hammer, he shouted as he smashed his hammer in Shu's shin. The fishman flinched in pain as Usopp stood up. Usopp's rubber band of doom, he shouted, making Shu flinch. The fishman waited for a second for the pain to come but didn't feel anything and opened his eyes, only to see the Usopp had disappeared. Ah, shit, where did that stupid son of a bitch go? Shu shouted before he turned red with embarrassment. Why that lil bastard? Arlong Park, Hachi, Arlong said in disbelief and anger at seeing his brother knocked out on the ground, beaten by a mere human. Zoro was panting on the ground with his sword sheathed before Kurubi stood over him with his fist raised. How dare you do that to Hachi? He said as he was about to bring his fist down on Zoro until he was kicked by Sanji and skidded back a little. Yeah, you thought you'd gotten rid of me that easily, Sanji said with a smirk. I'm impressed. I didn't know there was anyone in all of the East Blue who could stand back up after one of my punches. Kurubi said, staring at Sanji as the chef smiled. Oh, I know a whole bunch, at a certain restaurant I know of. Wanna go? He asked with a big grin. I don't think so. Naruto watched the confrontation as he helped Zoro to his feet. Stand back, I'm fine. Zoro pushed Naruto off as he slowly made his way to the ocean. What do you think you're doing? You can't rescue Luffy in your state, you'll drown as soon as you hit the water. Naruto said as he stopped Zoro. Just shut up and go. Luffy doesn't have much time left, we can't waste any more time. Zoro said as he struggled against Naruto's grip. I know that, but we still have 2 more of them to deal with. You just can't go in recklessly. Naruto argued with him. If you two are done arguing, then maybe you'd notice this. Sanji yelled as Naruto and Zoro saw him dive into the water. Oh oi, Baka, what do you think you're doing? They will have the advantage over you. Naruto yelled as he heard Kurubi laugh. That's just great. If he wants to challenge me in the water, then who am I to object? Kurubi said as he ran towards the water. Naruto saw this and tried to punch him, but he jumped over him and into the water after Sanji. Damn, Naruto cursed. I hope you know what you are doing, Sanji. He will be twice as powerful now, he thought before hearing Arlong chuckling. Seems like that human has a death wish fighting Kurubi underwater. His fishman karate is one of the best, Arlong said as he stood up. He might be good, but if I heard him before he said he was a 40th Dan, right? Naruto asked. He's still weak compared to practitioners like Jinbei. Sanji will beat him, he said as he picked up his Bakken, which was on the ground, and held it in front of him. Until he comes back, I'll deal with you. HMPH. Like a human can beat me. I'll admit what you did inside surprised me, but that won't happen again. Arlong said, stared at Naruto. We'll just see about that, Naruto said before he charged at Arlong, starting the battle for the island's freedom. Underwater. Sanji was swimming underwater towards where Luffy was when he saw Genzo pushing down on Luffy's chest while the rubber boy's head was stretched out towards the surface. I see, they're using Luffy's rubber body to their advantage. Since they couldn't move the stone, they moved Luffy's head instead. In that case, all I have to do is break that rock and then. Fishman karate. Forearm sledge. Sanji didn't finish as Kurubi came up and slammed his arm fin into the back of Sanji's neck, sending him deeper into the water. Kurubi smirked at his opponent before he spotted Genzo helping Luffy. It's that old man from the village. How useless. Damn it, he sees me, Genzo thought. Such a pathetic attempt to save the rubber boy's life. I guess I'll have to kill you too. He started swimming towards Genzo when he felt someone tug back on his hair and looked back to see Sanji glaring at him. Where do you think you're going? Sanji asked. You, foolish human, Kurubi said as he pulled his hair from Sanji's grip. Are you really trying to fight me underwater? You can't even breathe down here, what makes you think you can fight? He said, seeing Sanji covering his mouth trying to keep the air in his lungs. As you wish, foolish boy. Fishman karate. Dueling hair tether. Kurubi spun around in the water before sending his ponytail out and wrapping it around Sanji's waist. He pulls Sanji towards him as the cook struggled against the force and tried to kick the fishman as he got close but missed as Kurubi ducked under it. Too bad. Your kicks are powerless down here, that's one of your human weakness. But my fishman karate loses none of its power in water. On the contrary, it's much more powerful. Fishman karate. Underwater bladder buster. Kurubi yelled as he darted forwards and uses the momentum to deliver a savage sidekick to the Sanji's stomach. Sanji flew backwards from the force of the kick before Kurubi's hair tether stopped him from going any further. Fishman karate. Kurubi starts spinning forward as he pulled Sanji in again and brought his foot down on Sanji's head. Flaming axe kick. Seeing Sanji going down, Kurubi swam towards the cook before swimming past him and kicked Sanji in the jaw. Back foot jawbreaker. Kurubi swam up to see Sanji glaring at him before pulling his hand back. Guffaw palm bomb. Kurubi delivered an open palm slam to Sanji's chin as the chef flew back and hit the rock formation behind but not before unraveling his hair around Sanji. He turned around to Genzo and smirked at the man before he felt the water vibrate. Looking back he saw Sanji swimming fast towards the surface. Air. I let out too much, I can't breathe. Suffocating. Sanji thought swimming before he saw Kurubi appear before him. Impressive. Kurubi commented. You have amazing stamina. You sure you're even human? Damn it. Get out of the way. Didn't you say something earlier like, any man who hurts a lady is a piece of crap? Kurubi taunted. And now look at where your chivalry has gotten you. There's no escape for you, and you'll die by my hands. The old man and the boy he's trying to save. I'll kill them too. I'll kill Zoro and that long-nosed guy, the villagers and that Naruto guy as well. And as a bonus, I'll kill that traitorous bitch Nami as well. Don't you see, your chivalry is worthless. If it can't save you, then you protect no one. Kurubi finished as he laughed at the cook's misfortune. He then grabbed the back of Sanji's shirt and looked at him. I'll admit you have some skills, but, in the end you're still just a human. Your body doesn't react well to a sudden change of pressure, does it? He wrapped his arms around Sanji's body and turns upside down and smirked. Let's see, I have a theory about what will happen to your body. Your organs are going to explode from the inside out. Sanji widened his eyes at the implication and the fishman prepared to dive. Pulverizing pressure plunge. Both of them started diving at a fast rate as Sanji's stomach started to collapse in on itself. I can't let him do this. Sanji though as he covered his mouth again from letting air out. If I want to save Nami, the first thing I've got to do is save myself. They both came to a sudden stop as they reached the ocean floor as blood came out of Sanji's mouth. Kurubi started laughing before he saw Sanji pointing towards the surface and frowned. What's with him? He just won't die. He whispered. Very well, I guess we'll just have to try again. Kurubi said as they started swimming up. Fishmen use their lungs to breathe on land. Sanji thought as he looked at the gills on Kurubi's neck. But they use their gills to breathe water down here. Which means he can't use his gills on dry land. They might as well be talking fish. You ready for round 2? Kurubi asked. Which means their lungs are useless underwater. Sanji thought as he grabbed Kurubi's shoulder and breathed into his gills. Above ground. During Sanji's fight, Naruto rushed at Arlong with his bakken raised and brought it down at the fishman moved backwards and dodged it. Stay still. Naruto yelled as he swung the sword upwards and sent a slash of air at Arlong as he sidestepped it before it could cut him in half, but it still managed to cut off some hair. The fishman looked at the blonde with anger as he rushed at him and sent a punch his way. Naruto raised his hand and blocked the punch with a loud smack. And gripped Arlong's hand as the fishman grimaced. What's with this human? He's stronger than the rest and he can injure both me and Kurubi with one hit. That's impossible, Arlong thought before widening his eyes as Naruto hit him in the side with his bakken. Abdominal annihilation, Naruto said as he let go of Arlong's fist as the fishman grabbed his side in pain. Solid beast, Naruto yelled as he punched Arlong in his stomach and sent the fishman flying into the building. TCH, is that all you've got, Arlong? Naruto taunted. Arlong responded by crashing through the wall and glaring at the human in front of him. You bastard, you'll pay for that, Arlong growled out. Hey, you'll have to hit me first, Naruto said. He speeded towards the fishman and began swinging his sword at Arlong while twisting around at a fast pace while Arlong moved back to dodge the strikes. "What's with that sword's play?" Yosaku asked as everyone looked at Naruto. "I know, I don't recognize his style." "What is that?" Johnny said as he was interested in the fight. Meanwhile Zoro looked at the wooden blade with keen eyes as he observed the blonde. "His style seems wild and erratic to the normal eye, but if you look at it carefully you can see a pattern," Zoro thought as he narrowed his eyes. "A whirlpool." "Huh, what did you say, bro?" Johnny asked. "His sword style, it reminds me of a whirlpool," Zoro said. "He starts off by spinning at a fast rate to catch his enemies off guard as they don't know when he will strike, but in reality there's a pattern to it," he explained as everyone looked at the fight and saw Arlong being pushed back with some bruises forming on his body. He stares by slicing near his neck or torso and slowly moves down the body every 2 or 3 turns and continues this process. But if his opponent tries to reach for him he swipes at their hand and moves back to his previous position and continues. Zoro explained. "The constant turning and the level of danger as he moves down the body reminds me of a whirlpool." "I see, so he uses speed for his attacks?" Johnny asks as Zoro nodded. Back with Naruto, he continued slashing at Arlong as the fishman walked backwards before he could get hit with the human's sword. As he was about to attempt to grab him again he tripped on a piece of debris and began falling backwards. Naruto sharpened his eyes and spun faster. "Rising tides," Naruto said as Arlong was lifted into the air a little and Naruto stood up straight, gripping his bakken above his head and behind his back ready to strike Arlong. From behind the villagers began to see his sword change its color as it turned black. "Black blade style. Moonless night." Naruto sung his sword down as everyone saw a black blur before hitting Arlong in the stomach and hit the ground with such force that the whole park shook from the impact. Naruto took a couple of steps back and saw Arlong bloodied and down and turned towards the villagers. "That was more easy than I thought," he commented and started walking back. "Be bastard." Arlong's voice spoke up. Naruto looked back and saw him slowly sitting up. "You're still not down? You're tougher than I thought. You bastard. I'll kill you," Arlong screamed. Before any of them could continue the sound of bubbles caught their attention as they looked towards the water and saw Sanji surface and gasping for air. "Sanji," Naruto said as the cook made his way out of the water and onto dry land. "Oi, are you alright?" "Yeah, I'm alright, and so is Luffy as well," Sanji said getting his breath back. "Really? Yeah, half of him. I'll explain later, but for now," Sanji said before pointing at the water. "Get your ass up here. I want to fight where I can breathe," he shouted as Karubi made his way out of the water. "You still don't understand, do you? It doesn't matter if I'm on land or underwater, I'm just as strong either way," he said as he stood up and got into his stance. "Now you will witness the true power of fishman karate. When I punched you before that was just a sample of things to come. My ultimate attack is 10 times as powerful. The chances you'll survive this is 0, he shouted, before he saw a leg coming at him. "Collier," Sanji said before kicking Karubi into the ground below. "You said my chivalry was worthless?" "Apal, shoulder," he kicked him as he was getting up. "I can't protect anyone, huh?" Sanji asked as Karubi was on his knees. "Coatlet, ribs, cell, saddle, lower back." He followed up with the 2 kicks before kicking him again. "Poitrine, chest, jigget, legs." Sanji delivers a sweeping kick to Karubi's kneecaps as he was sent flying a few feet. The villagers gasped in amazement before Karubi struggled to stand. "Son of a bitch. 1,000 brick fist," he shouted as he swung at Sanji, but the cook disappeared from his sight and appeared to his left. "Mutton shot," Sanji shouted as he kicked Karubi in the face and sent him flying into Arlong Park and came out on the other side of the building knocked out. "Guess you don't need dessert," Sanji said looking at the hole in the building. "Marshlands. I can't believe this. Where are you, bastard?" Chu shouted as he continued searching for Usopp as he hid in the forest. "Catch!" Usopp shouted from the trees as a bottle flew towards Chu, who caught it with ease. "Sake. Special attack. Lead star," Usopp shouted as the bottle shattered, spilling the contents on Chu in the process and making him stumble back into one of the ponds. "Is this the only way you can fight, you coward? There's no place to hide from my squirt cannon,"
Chu said as he began to suck up the water from the area.
It doesn't matter if it's stupid or cowardly, this is a battle that the manly Usopp cannot run away from, he said as he prepared for battle while Chu, who looked bloated, aimed the attack at the forest. Squirt cannon. He spat out all the water at once, destroying the trees in his path. Usopp looked at the effect of the attack in terror while Chu gained a tick mark as he saw him reveal himself. Why'd I have to fight such an idiot? It's too easy, he thought with a sweat drop as Usopp hit himself again. I'll shred you to pieces. Squirt. He stopped mid-sentence as he saw a large metal ball heading towards him and was sent crashing into the ground. Usopp, hearing the crash, poked his head out from his hiding spot to see Jin panting while spinning his tonfas around. Jin. You're here. I'm saved, Usopp said as he whispered the last part to himself. It took me a while to get here though, you sure are good at running away, Jin said as he saw Chu getting back up. Who the hell are you? That's not important at the moment. What is important is that you were going down, Jin said as he speed up his swinging. Let's just see you try human, squirt machine gun, Chu shouted as he fired little droplets of water towards Jin and Usopp. Jin brought his tonfas up and blocked some of the water shots but was still injured when most of them made it through and ducked behind the trees for cover. Damn it. Those will be a problem since I can't get close to him. What can I do? Jin though as Chu continued to fire. Ah. Crap. Usopp yelled as he covered his ears. When I left I wanted to become a real pirate. I know I can do it. I know I can become a brave warrior of the sea. I won't be a coward and run away. Those days of pretending to be a pirate are over, he shouted as Chu kicked the tree he was hiding behind in half and caught it in midair. What did you say is over? Chu asked with the tree above his head. This fight. Sake is flammable, Usopp shouted as he pulled his slingshot back. Flaming star, he shouted as Chu was set on fire. Ah. Hot. Fire. Hot, hot, water, 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 must find water, Chu shouted as he ran towards the marshlands. Before he could reach it thought he was hit by Jin again as he was knocked into the marshlands. Wow, we won. We won, Usopp said as he came out of hiding. Yeah, we did. And that was quick thinking you had with the sake and fire, nice work long nose, Jin said as Usopp blushed at the compliment. Oh, please. Do go on. Bastards, Chu growled out as he stood behind the two and freaked them out. Usopp reacted first and brung out his hammer again. Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp's rubber band of doom. Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, he shouted as he continued to hit the fishman over the head. When he was finished Chu was seen lying on the ground with multiple lumps all over his head and face and was crying unconscious. Jin just looked at Usopp as he stood there with his hammer raised in the air while he breathed heavily and was shaking his legs. Wow, I didn't know you had that in you, Jin said. Why yeah. And neither did I, Usopp replied as he slowly looked towards Jin. Can we go back now? Sure. Just don't run off this time, Jin said as they started to make their way back towards Arlong Park. Arlong Park. Karubi, Hachi, Arlong said angrily as he glared at the group of pirates in front of him. You bastards defeated my brothers one after the other, you will all pay for this, he said as he glared at them with bloodshot eyes. Amazing. Those guys just beat two of Arlong's fishmen, Najiko thought as she looked at the park while holding Luffy's head above the water. Genzo then resurfaced and panted as he swam near them. I can't hold my breath any longer, Genzo said in between breaths. Take my place, I'll go, Najiko said. Genzo looked at Luffy's head and noted that he was looking better than before, and asked how the battle was going. Everyone's fine, no one's dead. But, for the first time, I actually feel hope that we'll be free from Arlong and his men, she said as she looked to the sky with a smile. Oi. Naruto leaned over to Sanji. What did you mean before when you said that Luffy was half okay? It means he's alive for the time being, but if we want him fully back on dry land I've got to go back in the water, Sanji said before he looked at Arlong. But something tells me that ugly over there won't let me. Don't worry about Arlong, I'll deal with him. You just get back in there and help Luffy, Naruto said as he walked towards the fishman once again. Got it, Sanji said as he was about to dive back in the water. Now then, Naruto said as he looked at the angry shark. Shall we finish this? Arlong. A shout came from behind the crowd of villagers. Everyone looked to see Nami glaring at Arlong. Big sis Nami. Johnny and Yosaku said in shock. Nami-san, Sanji said.
Nami, Naruto whispered as he saw Nami standing there with her bow staff and Luffy's hat. So that's where his hat went. He gave it to her before he came here.
Hey, Nami. Arlong said. I was just about to teach these humans a lesson in how inferior they are to fishmen. What are you doing here? I'm here to kill you, she said seriously. Kill me? Shahahaha, haven't you learned your lesson yet? How many times have you tried to kill me in these past 8 years? Arlong asked as the villagers gasped and looked at a shaking Nami. Assassination, poison, sneak attacks, and they never worked. You must be aware that you mere humans can't kill me, he said with a grin as the villagers looked at the ground. Listen, I'm not going to kill you Nami, but you can't just leave either. You will remain here, as my cartographer, forever. Arlong said with sharp eyes as he looked at the girl. Shut up already. Naruto yelled out before pointing his sword at Arlong. You talk an awful lot about her staying here when you'll be at the bottom of the sea soon, shark bastard. Oh, and what if I do? Once I'm finished with you insist I will kill every villager and pirate here? Arlong shouted as he glared at the blonde. And there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, yes there is. I can kick you ass right here and now, Naruto said. Swish. The sound of water drew everyone's attention to the sea entrance of the park as they all saw a stream of water flying into the air. Is that? Naruto said. I see, so that's what he meant. Sanji. Naruto said as he got in front of the cook. Right. He said as he jumped into the water. Arlong looked at where the water was coming from with a raised eyebrow. I don't remember a fountain over there. Could it be that rubber kid? Arlong said as he took a step forward but stopped when Naruto brought his Bakken up to his face. You shouldn't be worried about him right now, Yano, Naruto said. I'm your opponent. Hey. Arlong smirked. I'm not worried. Those who possess devil fruit powers lose all their strength when they even touch the sea. He should be dead by now. But if by any chance he's still alive, then that won't be fair with the game now, will it? Game? That little game of yours is over, Arlong. You've lost. The only thing left for you to do now is die. Naruto said in a serious voice as he glared off with the fishman. Egg Star. Usopp's voice called out as Arlong raised his hand and stopped the egg from hitting him. Looking over, everyone saw Usopp standing by the hole Sanji had made. With Karubi's help. And gave Naruto the thumbs up. I've got you back, Naruto. Go on, give it to him. Why are you over there? Everyone yelled as Naruto's sweat dropped. Isn't he a little too far away? He thought before turning back to Arlong. That's just him, I suppose. Jin said as he walked up to the crowd. Usopp then boasted about how he and Jin beat Shu and did a poor impersonation of the fishman as Arlong looked at him with anger. Impossible. Shu was beaten. Arlong growled out. Face it, Arlong. Naruto said, gaining the fishman's attention. You're finished. Your men are beaten, your park is almost destroyed, and not single human has died. You've lost. He finished with a smirk. Arlong's blood-red eyes glared at the man in front of him. You. Screaming in the air drew everyone's attention again as they all saw a red and blue blob in the air before looking closer and saw that it was Luffy. I'm Baack. Everyone looked and cheered as they all saw Luffy back in action, and Naruto smirked when he saw his little brother again. In the air, Luffy smirked as he saw Naruto standing off against Arlong and stretched his arms out. Naruto. The rubber boy shouted as he grabbed the back of Naruto's shirt as the blonde had nervous blue lines on his face. Oh oi, hold on. You're not going to, Naruto said as he looked back at Luffy and got even more nervous when Luffy's grin widened. Switch. No way. They both yelled as Luffy was pulled towards shore as Naruto buried his Bakken in the ground in an effort to not be sent flying. Naruto struggled against Luffy as the rubber boy made it and smashed into the blonde, sent them both head first into the concrete. You idiot. The villagers yelled as they saw Luffy tried to trade places with Naruto but failed. Ouch, Luffy said as he sat up. Bastard. Naruto spoke up before he gripped Luffy's head and made the rubber boy scream in pain. What did you think you were doing? Trying to fling your older brother into the sea like that?
You would have been okay though, Luffy said through the pain as Naruto gripped his head tighter.
Okay. Okay. I'm a devil fruit eater too, you moron? I would have drowned if I touched the ocean. Naruto yelled comically before letting Luffy's head go before the rubber boy glared at him as well. Who cares? You were stealing my fight. Your fight. I promised Nami I would take care of Arlong. Oh yeah? When? Before she even met you, dummy. That's why I came to this island in the first place? The villagers and pirate crew watched the two brothers arguing with sweat drops and thought to themselves, they really are brothers. What do you think you two are doing? An angry Arlong said as he stood behind Naruto with a cutlass in hand as the two brothers noticed him. Bickering like fools while my brother lay dead at your feet. Shit. Naruto thought as he pushed Luffy back and stood up. Die. Arlong yelled as he swung the sword and cut Naruto across the waist. Everyone looked in shock as bottom half of Naruto's body fell to the floor, lifeless, while Arlong grabbed the top half and threw it towards the park without a care in the world. Naruto. Nami yelled as she saw him get sliced in half. Arlong ignored her cry and looked at Luffy with a glare and a horrible grin. So, how does it feel to have your own brother killed right in front of your eyes? Not very pleasing, isn't it? Now you know how I feel when you and your friends, huh? Arlong finished as he looked at Luffy, picking his nose. You say something? The rubber teen asked as everyone looked at him if he was serious. What's wrong with you? You just saw your own brother murdered and you don't even react in rage. You can't be that heartless? Arlong asked as his anger began to grow. I'm not worried, Luffy said, continuously picking his nose. Don't you even care about him? Don't you worry about his safety? Arlong said in anger as the villagers began to look in fear. Why would he? A voice spoke up from behind Arlong as everyone, except Luffy, widened their eyes in shock. Arlong looked behind him and what he saw made him stare in disbelief. Behind him was the supposed lifeless form of Naruto's legs slowly making their way up before standing to attention and waiting. The rubble behind them started to move before the top half of Naruto's body managed to crawl up on top of it and smirked at Arlong. Yo. What the? How are you still alive? Arlong asked in shock as Naruto chuckled a little. I thought you may have heard me before when I said that Luffy wasn't the only one of us to have eaten a devil fruit. Naruto said before his body turned blue and formed into a puddle of water under him. The water then started rising into the air before hitting Naruto's lower body and started to form the top half. Luffy doesn't worry about me. Right arm, because he doesn't need to worry about me, left arm. And that's because attacks like that won't work on me, and my devil fruit abilities. He finished as his face formed and his hat formed above his head and dropped down on it. With my splash fruit's power, none of your attacks can harm me. Naruto said as his whole body finally reformed again and moved his arms slowly in a circle as droplets of water came out of his arms. And now, I'll show you my true power. Saw nose, Arlong. He finished with a grin. The final battle of Arlong Park was about to begin. Splash fruit. Arlong said as he looked at Naruto and his reformed body. I've never heard of a devil fruit like that before, or one that allows a person to turn into water. That shows how little you know about devil fruits. Naruto said with a smirk. Devil fruits are classified into 3 types. Paramecia, Zone, Logia. Paramecia types would give superhuman powers that could affect a person's body, their environment, or produce some kind of substance. Luffy is an example of that. Zone types give a person the ability to transform into a certain kind of animal, either real or mythical. And Logia types allow a person to turn into, and control a specific element. So I'm guessing that you're a Logia user then? Arlong stated as Naruto nodded. That's right, I ate a water-type Logia fruit. Now I can create, manipulate, and become water at will. Perfect for someone like me. The enigma of all the devil fruits for an enigma of a person. Naruto said as he got into a fighting stance. It would be useless to tell you to stay out of this, wouldn't it, Luffy? Damn right it is. Now let's do this. Luffy shouted as he rushed at Arlong. Gum bell. Luffy stretched his head back before retracting it back and headbutting Arlong and sending him backwards. Now, whip. He yelled as he stretched his leg and kicked the fishman in the side. Arlong skidded until he was near the front of the building. Before he could think about what to do next, he saw a ring of water circle around his body. Naruto smirked as he saw Arlong stuck in his trap and did lifting motion with his index finger by pointing upwards. Water spout. Naruto said as the water beneath Arlong shot up with him in it and sent him into the air. Naruto launched himself off the ground and into the air above Arlong and spun forward and sent the fishman back down with a heel kick. Arlong landed with a loud crash, as he made a crater when he landed. The villagers look in awe at the powers the brothers possessed as Naruto landed on the ground and Luffy walked up next to him. "You think he's dead?" Luffy asked his brother. "Nah, those attack wouldn't have killed him. Besides, I want to make that same Teme pay for what he has done to both Nami and the villagers over the years," Naruto said as he cracked his knuckles. "You are a pair of fools." Arlong's voice rung out as the people watched him rise up out of the crater. "You think you can beat me, let alone kill me? You're doing nothing but making me more angry." Arlong stood up and walked out of the crater, blood running out of his mouth as he wiped it away. "First you have the balls to come into my park and threaten me, then you make me watch as you crush my brothers like worms. I'll make you all pay." "Big talk coming from someone who's already got his ass beaten," Luffy said as he looked at Arlong's condition. It looked like he wouldn't last much longer in his shape. "You brat, I'll show you, and you know why? It's because of what makes us different." Arlong growled out as Naruto and Luffy gained confused looks. "What makes us different?" Naruto said. "Do you mean our noses?" Luffy asked. "No, our jaws." "No, wait, I got it. Webbing," Luffy said, pointing to his hand. "Species," Arlong yelled as he tried to bit the two pirates, who quickly moved out of the way as not to get bitten. Arlong chased after the two brothers before Naruto turned around and tried to punch him, but the fishman ducked under his punch and waved his hand at the blonde and sent water into his stomach. Naruto jolted in pain as he felt the water hit him. "Sea water," he thought before Arlong pushed him out of the way and headed towards Luffy. The rubber team quickly moved backwards as to avoid the sharp teeth the Arlong possessed until the fishman launched his hand forward and pinned the teen's neck against a pillar behind him. Arlong tried to bite Luffy again, but Luffy grabbed his head and pulled it to the side, having Arlong biting the pillar instead. "That must be painful," Usopp said. "His teeth must be stuck." He stopped when the pillar Arlong bit started to crumble. "He bit through that stone pillar," Johnny exclaimed with his jaw dropped. "Scary," Luffy said as he quickly moved away from the fishman. "Holy crap. Those teeth must be as hard as steel to do that. If Luffy or Naruto get bitten by him, they lose a part of their body," Sanji thought as he looked at the fishman's strength. Negico and Genzo sat beside him as they had the same thoughts on their minds. "This," Arlong said as he turned around, "is the true power of the fishmen race. The heavens themselves made this distinction between us. You humans only have the strength to live beneath us. I should feel sorry for you humans. We're on a whole different level and have been since the dawn of time." Arlong grinned. "You're inferior, so it's only natural to bow before me." He started chuckling. "You're weak, your mere presence is deplorable to the earth." Arlong gave a bloodthirsty grin. "Why don't I show you the difference between us?" he asked Luffy. Luffy stood up and grinned at Arlong. "Sure. There's no way I'll lose to a fishman. Because I'm going to be king of the pirates," he exclaimed with a big toothy smile. Naruto smiled as he heard Luffy exclaim his dream like it was his catchphrase. He missed hearing him say stuff like that while he was journeying the seas. "King of the pirates," Arlong said, picking up a big rock and proceeded to throw it up and catch it. "Don't be foolish, a human like you couldn't conquer the Grand Line. You can't even crush a pillar with your jaws." "So what?" Naruto spoke up. "You don't need teeth or jaw power to break stone." He then walked over to a half-destroyed pillar and punched it, breaking it even more, leaving only a stump. "We can easily break them with our fists." "Fools. That's not the point," Arlong said, getting angry with the humans in front of him. "The whole human race is pathetic. What good are you if you can't even get yourself out of the water?" Arlong screamed, dashing towards the brothers. The two dodged Arlong's bite as they rolled to the side. Luffy stretched and grabbed a couple of swords some fishmen dropped. "That doesn't matter," he said, bringing the swords up. "In fact, I'm worthless without my friends." He just started to wildly swing them at Arlong, who dodged every one of them. "What is this, a joke? All you're doing is just waving those things around." Arlong said as he used his nose to knock one of the swords out of Luffy's hand. You should take this seriously, he said, smirking down at Luffy. Luffy swung his other sword at Arlong's head, but Arlong caught it in his mouth and broke it. That's enough, now die. Shut up, Luffy said as he punched Arlong in his mouth, breaking his teeth as he hit the ground. He broke Arlong's teeth. A villager exclaimed in awe. Luffy stared down at Arlong. You're right, I don't know how to wield a sword, you bastard, he yelled. What the hell is he talking about? Jin asked. I'm a terrible sailor, I definitely can't cook, I don't know how to use weapons, I can't even lie. Hey! Usopp yelled at Luffy's comment. And I'm not as strong as Naruto, he said, pointing at Arlong. Without my friends I would have died a long time ago. Luffy finished. Arlong started chuckling, holding his mouth with his hands. So you finally admit how foolish you really are, he said, sitting up. I'll admit you're foolish, but you're honest. I wonder how your crew deals with your idiocy day in and day out, he said, staring at Luffy. But that makes me wonder. Why do they fight for a dimwit of a leader like you? Arlong asked.
Someone like you doesn't even deserve a ship or a crew, he said, standing up. What the hell can you do? He asked Luffy. Luffy just grinned. I can kick your ass. All the villagers started cheering as Luffy cracked his fingers. Oi, Luffy, don't go kicking his ass before I have a chance to. Naruto spoke up from behind Arlong. Can't promise you that. Why, you cheer and bicker all you want, but it won't help. Arlong yelled as his broken teeth fell out of his mouth and new ones took their place. He's got new teeth, Luffy exclaimed, wide-eyed. I'm a shark, Arlong said with a grin. New teeth will just grow, one after another, and each one stronger than the last, he said, chuckling a little. He pulled his new set out. Endlessly, he pulled the other set that just growed out in his other hand. As many as it takes, Arlong said, holding both sets of teeth in each hand. This is one of the gifts fishmen have, now you see why we are superior, he asked, clacking his set of teeth. Tooth attack. He dashed and attacked Luffy with his two sets of teeth. Luffy moved backwards as Arlong continued to attack Luffy as the rubber boy until Luffy grabbed his arm in an attempt to flip Arlong over his shoulder, but the fishman used his position to send one of his teeth at Luffy as the rubber teen widened his eyes. Big bro Luffy, Johnny and Yosaku yelled as everyone watched as Arlong attacked the person in front of him while he was laughing like a maniac. As Arlong continued to attack the rubber man with his twin steel-like teeth, he stopped when he felt what was blood spray across his eyes. He went to clean it away when he looked at his hand and widened his eyes at what he saw. Water. He looked back towards the person he was attacking when he saw Naruto crouched in front of him, protecting Luffy with several chunks and bite marks over his arms and head that he had transformed into water. What? Naruto quickly shot his leg up and kicked Arlong in the jaw, sending the fishman back a bit as his teeth fell out along with the ones he was holding, and sent him back a few feet. I hate having chunks of my body being chewed out, Naruto said, standing up as his wounds healed up. Huh, you've been eaten before? Luffy asked. Can't say that I have, but it's a pain in the ass to transform, Naruto said as he picked up one of Arlong's teeth. Impressive power for a set of dentures. Luffy looked at the teeth in thought. You fools, Arlong said, sitting up, eyes shadowed, wiping a little blood off of his lip. You really don't get it, do you? Arlong asked, a new set of teeth in his mouth. All I understand is that you really need to shut your mouth. I'm getting really tired of hearing your voice already, Naruto said. You big bro Luffy, that doesn't seem very sanitary. Naruto heard Yosaku spurt out as he turned around and went deadpan as he looked at Luffy, with Arlong's teeth in his mouth. Look, now I have shark teeth. Quote. 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 What the? Will you stop fooling around? Arlong yelled as he looked at what Luffy was doing with his teeth and went to rush at him past Naruto, but the blonde pirate raised his arm to clothesline Arlong as the fishman hit his arm and flipped over onto the ground. Luffy, get that out of your mouth, you don't know where that's been, Naruto shouted as he turned to face Luffy. But didn't it come from Arlong? That's not the point. Get those things out of your mouth, Naruto yelled at Luffy as he walked over to him and forcibly took them out of the boy's mouth. He heard the sound of water splashing behind him and turned around to see Arlong nowhere in sight. Where is he? Luffy asked. Guys, he's in the ocean. Usopp yelled out quickly as the brothers looked to see a fin sticking out of the water before it went under. Luffy, don't let your guard down. His abilities have doubled now that he's in the water. Naruto said seriously as Luffy nodded his head and focused on the water. What is he up to? He can't do that much while we are on dry land and he's under, so what? Naruto thought as he looked at the rippling water. What? He's moving.
Shark darts. They heard Arlong shout out before he shot out of the water at incredible speeds and crashed into the building behind the brothers. Luffy held his right side as the shark fishman had been able to hit him as he rocketed out of the water. Naruto on the other hand was completely unharmed as the fishman focused his attack on Luffy, leaving Naruto to look at his little brother in worry and shock. Arlong walked out of the rubble of the hole created on the second story and smirked as he looked down at the two humans. I'm surprised you managed to dodge that attack, Rubber Boy. Well, at least most of it anyway. He said mockingly as Luffy glared at him. But this next attack will send you both to hell. Shark darts. Arlong darted towards as the rubber teen dodged, which let Arlong hit the edge of the ground and let a dust cloud cover his form. What the hell? What is that fishman's body made of? His nose crushed the ground, Jin said in terror as the townspeople and crew looked at the destruction caused by Arlong. The fishman darted out of the dust and toward Naruto. The blonde quickly brought his arms up and caught Arlong's nose between his hands as he held them together as they turned black. Arlong struggled against the blonde pirate as Naruto smirked at him. You must be very proud of this nose of yours to use it as your main weapon, Naruto said as he pushed back against Arlong. Thank you. It's very handy for killing human filth like you, Arlong pushed back. Then you won't mind if I break this nose of yours then? If you think you can, you're welcome to try, Arlong shouted as he pushed against Naruto before he felt a pain in his side and was sent flying into the building. Naruto turned left and saw Luffy standing next to him as the teen's legs stretched back to him. I can handle someone like Arlong, you know, Naruto said as Luffy shrugged. I still want to kick his ass, Luffy said before looking at Naruto. Say, why were your arms black before? I'll tell you later, but first listen up, Naruto said as he started whispering in Luffy's ear. You got it? He asked as Luffy nodded before turning to where Arlong was and felt a lot of killing intent radiating off of that spot. Boy, he seems pissed. You, Arlong's voice rung out from the dust. You inferior human filth. Arlong emerged from the dust cloud as his eyes changed into ones seen on sea kings when they get angry. In his hand was a giant saw-like sword with 6 teeth. Oh no. It's the shark saw, Nami said wide-eyed. Die? Arlong yelled as he rushed at the two brothers. Luffy move, Naruto said as he and Luffy dodged Arlong's strike, making the fishman more angry. As he went to attack the blonde that started all this mess, Naruto disappeared and reappeared on the upper level, with Arlong still trying to attack him with his weapon. Naruto disappeared again and made it to the top floor when he saw Arlong once again on his tail. He's faster than before, Naruto observed as he tensed his body when Arlong slashed at him with the giant sword and sent Naruto through the window. And stronger too. He slowly stood up before taking another look around. You've nowhere to go now, human, Arlong said as he walked through the broken window, saw blade in hand. This is the end. What is this room? Naruto said. You don't know, this is the room where Nami made all these wonderful maps, Arlong said as he looked around. Maps? Naruto said as he looked around again and saw the piles of paper around the place before glaring at Arlong. I see. These are all of the maps and charts Nami has drawn in the past 8 years. We fishmen can easily gather information about the ocean, but turning that information into a map is a difficult task. We needed a surveyor. That's where Nami comes in. That girl is truly a genius when it comes to creating charts. Arlong continued talking, but Naruto stopped listening as he stepped on something and looked down. He noticed a pen on the floor and crouched down to grab it before bringing it to his face. His eyes were shadowed by his hat as he stared at the pen. This pen, he trailed off as he saw it stained with blood. Arlong held his weapon at Naruto, his neck between two of the blades. Do you understand? She has her place in the world, and it's by my side. Do you think that you or that rubber bastard can ever use her as well as I can? Naruto, with his eyes still shadowed, felt rage stir within him as he placed the pen on the floor and held onto one of the blades with one hand, which wiped Arlong's smirk off his face. He tightened his grip on the blade before it shattered, startling Arlong. "What?" Arlong shouted before Naruto looked up and glared at him. "You, sir?" Naruto yelled as he released a wave of haki. Outside, everyone stared at the room Naruto and Arlong disappeared into. They wondered what was happening before they all froze in their tracks. A few people started passing out, scaring the others. "Naruto," Nami said before a crash could be heard. Everyone looked to see a desk falling from the room, which was soon followed by other bits of furniture, slashes of air and thousands of maps. Everyone was staring at the scene as Nami remembered all of the horrible memories she had in that room and felt them all fade away as each piece of furniture crashed on the group and each piece of paper floated away in the wind or went into the ocean. Her hand went to her mouth as she cried at the sight. "Thank you." "Inside, you bastard," Arlong grunted as he was now being held up by his neck by Naruto. "I don't care about Nami's maps or your race's superiority," Naruto said before he brought Arlong closer to him. "I just care about my friend's happiness, and you're in the way," he said as he threw Arlong across the room and into the wall. "I could have finished you off before this battle even started, but I wanted to make you suffer like you have been making Nami and her village suffer for years. Well, no more. I'll destroy you. I'll start by destroying this room in Arlong Park. So long as this room exists, Nami can never be happy. So it's gotta go," Naruto said with a serious face. "Fool. I refuse to let Arlong Park be destroyed by some inferior human," Arlong said before he started another attack. "Oh, you're wrong. I'm not one going to destroy it," Naruto said with a smirk as Arlong looked at him confused. He then heard someone shouting outside. "Gum gum. It can't be, impossible," Arlong shouted. "Get ready to be defeated, Arlong," Naruto said with a smirk. "Never. Shark tooth drill," he shouted as he spun at a high speed toward Naruto. The blonde waited until the fishman was close and quickly grabbed a hold of him and stopped him in his tracks. "Battle axe." They heard Luffy screamed as they saw the rubber teen's foot crash through the ceiling and stomp right on Arlong. Luffy shouted as he sent Arlong through the floors of the building as it to collapse around Naruto. As Luffy was stretching his leg back, Naruto took a hold of it and went up with it towards the teen. The people below looked at the building with wide eyes as they saw the object of their pain and suffering being broken apart until it finally stopped and left nothing but a pile rubble in its place. They watched as Naruto and Luffy landed on top of the rubble. "Well, that was fun," Naruto said as he sat down on a piece of rubble. "Don't you think so, Luffy?" "Luffy?" he asked as he looked behind him and saw Luffy standing up and looking at the crowd of villagers and crew members. Luffy took a deep breath. "Nami!" Luffy yelled out. "Nami, you'll always be my friend," Luffy yelled at the top of his lungs. Nami just stared at him with wide eyes before she started to tear up. "Yeah," she said with a smile as the tears fell. Naruto and the other Straw Hats smiled as he heard what he said while the villagers started to let everything they've just seen sink in. "He won. He won. We won. Big Bro won. Arlong Park has fallen," someone yelled out. Soon the whole village cried out in joy as they cheered. Finally, after 8 long years, they were all finally free. "Isn't that great, sis?" Sanji asked as he tried to hug Nezuko, but missed when she hugged Genzo. "Nezuko, am I dreaming? To think this day has finally come," Genzo said as the villagers started tossing Luffy and Naruto into the air, happy to be free at last. "You guys did it. You deserve the praise," Usopp shouted out. "I mean, I could have done it better, but who am I to steal the spotlight away from you two?" "Geez," Sanji said as he watched everyone. "You guys had us worried from time to time. At least try to be quicker beating the bad guys next time." The cheering stopped for a second when everyone slipped and Luffy hit the ground. The good mood came back when Luffy started laughing, with everyone laughing as well. "Huh?" Luffy said as he felt his straw hat being placed on his head. He looked back to see Nami smiling at him. Both stood up and gave each other a high five. Everyone cheered and danced where they were. "That's enough celebrating," came a voice. Everyone looked to see Captain Nezumi with some bandages on his hand and foot and a few dozen Marines behind him aiming their guns at everyone. Everyone glared as Nezumi laughed. "Chi chi chi chi. Well, this is my lucky day," Never did I think that a bunch of puny pirates would defeat Arlong and his fishmen. But thanks to that, all of the money that I was supposed to give to Arlong now belongs to me along with all of the treasure in the park. Everyone looked ready to kill Nezumi when he said that. Now, everyone, drop your weapons. I, Captain Nezumi of the Marines, will be taking the credit for everything here, he said before he started screaming in terror. I see you try to rain on these people's parade. Now that's just rude, Zoro said as he had Nezumi's head in hand. A moment later, I'm a captain in the Marines. Nezumi mumbled in pain as he and all his Marines were bleeding, broken, and crying with all the Straw Hat fighters and Naruto standing behind them. If you lay one finger on me, I won't let you live. Shut up, Naruto said as he kicked his head softly. Nami then came over with her staff in hand. This is for shooting Nejiko, and for messing with Belmir's Tangerine Grove, she said as Nezumi looked at her confused before she smacked him with her staff, sending him flying across the water before sinking. Caption. Thanks Nami. I feel better already, Nejiko said. He deserves 1,000 more beatings where that came from, Genzo said as Nezumi came back up to breathe. Nami walked over to him and started pulling the whiskers on his face. Listen very carefully, because I'm only going to say this once, she said in a calm voice. Behind her Naruto grinned as he cracked his knuckles. Okay, I'm listening, Nezumi squeaked out, fearful of what Nami or the man behind her might do. You are going to clean up this mess and take care of Arlong and his men, then you're going to rebuild Gosa village, she said. And you're not to touch the money in Arlong Park, it's the island's money, got it? Right. I understand, I'll do anything you say, Nezumi said. Good. Now get off our island, she shouted as she let his whiskers go. He swam off a bit before turning around. You'll pay for this. All of you. You there, the one with the straw hat. You said your name is Monkey D. Luffy, correct? That's right. Luffy said. You'll be big after messing with me, and you too, Ocean Master. Mark my words. Nezumi shouted before he swam away. He said we're going to be famous, Sanji said. How do you know I was gonna be the king of the pirates? Luffy asked. He wasn't talking about that, you numbskull, Zoro yelled at him. What do we do now? If we become notorious, what'll happen to us? Usopp yelled as he pointed towards the retreating Marines. We'll be hunted down most likely, Jin said. You're not helping. As Luffy and his crew started talking, the doctor, Neko, spoke up. What are you all waiting for? He shouted. We can't keep this to ourselves. Spread the word to the whole island. Arlong Park is no more. Yeah. They all shouted before they took off to share the good news with everyone. While this was going on, Nejiko, Genzo and Neko all looked at the group of talking to Nami as they all laughed and smiled. To think that we would be saved by pirates, what is the world coming to? Genzo said with a smile as he shook his head. Seems like you can finally rest in peace, Belmir. Later that day the party was in full swing. Dancing, singing, music, and everyone smiling and laughing their hearts out. Ah! Sanji, Jin and Usopp heard from the doctor's office. He's still at it, Usopp said from the table outside of the doctor's office as Sanji took a drag from his cigarette. Well. You saw how Zoro looked after his fight, he said looking over across the street. Yeah. A normal person would have died from those wounds. But that swordsman ain't normal, Jin said as they heard Zoro yell again. Inside, Johnny and Yosaku were sleeping on beds as the doctor was working on Zoro. Ah. The doctor looked at Zoro. You dumb ass, did you think this would heal on its own? He said, sewing up Zoro's wound. Seriously, I thought pirates were supposed to be smarter than this. Don't you guys have a doctor or something on your crew? He finished holding down Zoro. Doctor, they heard a voice say as Zoro looked up to the window above his bed. Luffy? He asked, seeing Luffy hanging on the window eating a piece of meat. That's a good idea, but I would like to get a musician first, Luffy said, taking another bite out of his meat. Why? Zoro asked a little painfully. Because pirates like to sing, Luffy said plainly as Zoro sighed. Okay, you have a point, but why a musician first? He asked. Luffy, ignoring him, looked over to the doctor. Hey old man, Luffy asked. Do you know where Nami is? I haven't seen her all day. The doctor looked away and thought. Well, If Nami isn't here in the village, then there's only one other place I know she'll be. Belmir's grave. Nami was sitting cross-legged smiling in front of Belmir's grave marker, Genzo standing behind her, arms behind his back. Nami, what are you doing here? Genzo turned around and saw Najiko walking up. Your friends are looking everywhere for you, she said, stopping beside Genzo. Hey Najiko. Genzo. Nami asked, turning her head to look at them. Do you think if Belmir were still here, she would let me become a pirate? Genzo and Najiko gained a surprised look.
A pirate? Are you kidding? Of course she wouldn't let her precious daughter go around with some treacherous pie.
She'd let you go. Najiko interrupted Genzo. Najiko. But if she said, no, that wouldn't stop you, would it? Najiko asked with a smile. Nami turned around and stuck her tongue out. That right, nope, Najiko giggled. Genzo sighed. I see, he said before bursting out laughing. What's with you, Genzo? Najiko asked. Genzo said, pushing his hat down over his eyes. You two really are Belmir's kids, he said, patting Najiko on the shoulder. Looks like you already made up your mind, Nami, he said, turning to walk away. Live your lives, it's what Belmir would have wanted.
For the next 3 days, not just the village of Kokoyashi but the whole island celebrated the defeat of Arlong and his men. Cheering, music and laughter could be heard throughout the island as people danced and celebrated for finally being free of the fishmen's wrath, except for the first day, as Zoro's screams of pain could be heard as the good doctor stitched his scars up.
While the villagers were still celebrating, Zoro, now wearing a white shirt with 3 buttons at the top all unbuttoned, was drinking some beer in an alley as he listened to the people celebrating. Boy, I'm stuffed. Zoro looked up and saw Sanji walking over and sat down in front of him. It's a nice change of pace not having to cook. He looked over to Zoro. How are you holding up? He asked. I'll be okay, I just need to rest for a bit, he said, taking another swig from his beer. He looked over to the crowd. How much longer can they keep this up? It's been 3 days now, he said as Sanji took out a cigarette. Well, do you blame them? Sanji asked, lighting up his cigarette. They've been under Arlong's rule for 8 years now. I'd be partying too. Suddenly Luffy came over, mouth full of meat and holding a bunch more. Sanji, where's that melon you had earlier go? He asked, mouth full. I want to try it. Zoro looked at Luffy. It isn't polite to talk with your mouth full, he said. I don't know, it was raw ham melon? Sanji asked, taking a long drag from his cigarette. Raw ham melon. Show me where you found it, Luffy exclaimed. I can't. Sanji looked over to the crowd. The whole town is a buffet, good luck finding it. Huh? He looked back to see that Luffy was gone. He's ran off. Sanji put out his cigarette and threw it in a pouch. 3 days of stuffing his face. That's 3 days I don't have to worry about the crew's food supply disappearing during the night, he said with a smile. Unless he sneaked away and ate that as well, Jin said as he made his way over with some more beer in hand. Sanji paled at the thought of it and shook it off. Luffy wouldn't do that, right?
Well, putting that off for later, it's time to dance. Sanji started running towards a group of women with hearts above his head. With the ladies, Zoro gained a tick mark. He tried to take another drink but noticed his cup before Jin offered him one of his.
Thanks. No problem, Jin said as he looked towards Usopp, who was now standing on some stacked up tables, was yelling out of a megaphone. This is one crazy crew you have here. Well, get used to it, because you are now one of these crazy crew members, Zoro said. Jin just sighed and sat down opposite of Zoro and chugged down his beer.
Well, I thought you'd be more depressed, Nojiko said with a smirk. What do you mean? The boy asked. I thought you would be like, why didn't this happen before my daddy died? Why is life so unfair? She said, head leaning on her hand. The boy looked down in thought. Well, at first I was, but I've decided to think about the future. Nojiko raised an eyebrow. What about it? Yeah. After tonight we can start anew. We have to make our own future. Whining about the past will get us nowhere. He finished. Nojiko smiled, reached over and pinched his cheek. Ow. It's no fun if I can't pick on you for being a kid, she said. So you decided to hurt me instead, you old punk, the boy yelled with a tick mark. Nojiko laughed. Punk? That's right. Dr. Nako's office. Think you can remove it?
Nami asked him, laying down on her stomach topless with a towel draped across her back. I'll do my best. The doctor said, holding a cloth on her shoulder and dipping another in alcohol. But this is a tattoo, there's bound to be some scarring left. He said, putting the alcohol on her shoulder. I should have known that I'll never truly be rid of it, she said. Hey doc, I think I would like a new tattoo, like this, she said, handing him a piece of paper. A distance away at the cliff, Genzo was standing before Belmir's grave as he poured a bottle of sake onto it. Belmir, he said. Your daughters have grown up to strong, wonderful women. You would be proud.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Genzo turned around, startled as he saw Naruto walking towards him with a gourd of sake in hand. I thought that you could use a drink.
Oh, it's you, boy, he said. Yes, I would like one, thank you. No problem, Naruto said as he pulled 2 cups out of his pocket and poured them both a cup before they looked out to the sea. So, I take it this is where Belmir is. Yes, she rests here in peace now that Arlong and his men are no longer a threat to this island. Genzo said, gazing at him. And we can thank you and your brother for that. It was no problem. Like I said, I was keeping my promise to Nami, Naruto said before drinking some sake. I would gladly do it all over again if I could, maybe finish the fight a bit sooner actually, but Luffy and his crew really needed this experience if they want to sail to the Grand Line. As long as the outcome is the same, it's all fine. The Grand Line, huh? I heard it's a dangerous place, is that true? Genzo asked as he took a sip from his cup. It won't be an easy journey for them. Both sides of the Grand Line are dangerous in their own right, but with Luffy I think Nami will be okay, if that's what you were really asking, Naruto said. As long as she will be fine, then that's all right with me, Genzo said before looking towards the blonde. So what are you going to do now that you have kept your promise to Nami? I imagine you will keep sailing as you are a wanted man. Well, I've actually been thinking about that. I've been talking with my brother about his crew and they seem to have an open position for a helmsman, Naruto said as Genzo looked at him in shock. I was planning on going to the Grand Line sooner or later anyway, so why go with some friends? He finished with a laugh. Raw ham melon. Well, speck of the devil, Naruto said as he and Genzo turned around to see Luffy standing a few feet away with meat in his mouth and hands. Hey Luffy, we were just talking about you. Luffy looked towards them and saw what they were standing in front of. Huh? A grave? Did someone die? He asked. Yes, a long time ago, Genzo answered. I see. I give you my condo. Luffy said, trying to remember the words. Condolences, Naruto said, correcting Luffy. Right, Luffy said. Listen, Genzo said as Luffy was about to leave. Look, I know Nami's going with you. She's dead set on becoming a pirate and that's dangerous business, but it's her choice. However, if any of you do anything to take her smile away, I'll find you and kill you myself, he said in a low tone. We won't take her smile away, Luffy said. Do you understand? Genzo said as he turned and glared at Luffy. I understand, Luffy said with a stern nod before turning away and leaving, looking for the ham melon once again. Can you promise me as well, boy? Genzo asked as Naruto looked at the man. He smirked as he raised his cup of sake. Sure thing. I'll make it my promise of a lifetime, Naruto said as they both drank. All the villagers were sleeping on the ground and Usopp was still singing with a dazed look in his eyes. Yeah, let's sing Captain Usopp the Great for the 300th. He then fell on his back asleep. Zoro and Jin were asleep in the alley they were in. Johnny and Yosaku are asleep with bottles around them, and Sanji was asleep with women surrounding him.
Nami. Back at her house, Nami just finished pulling the bag full of the money she collected into the kitchen. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and put a note onto the bag. She looked around and saw a picture of her, Nojiko, and Belmir on the nightstand beside the bed. She smiled, remembering all the good times she had. She put the picture down and opened the drawer and pulled out an old map. She rolled it up, turned around and saw Belmir sitting down at the table smiling. Well, we did it, Belmir, Nami said. It only took 8 years, but we're finally free, she continued with a smile. Just like you told us when we were kids, be brave and smile, and nothing can stop you. I'm finally going to sail around the world. She looked at Belmir. But don't worry, I'm going with good, strong people like you. She wiped a tear from her eyes. I just wanted to say goodbye, because I don't know if or when I'll be back. She looked back only to see Belmir was gone.
Nami closed her eyes as she stood in her house and took in a deep breath. Feeling nostalgic already? Naruto's voice spoke up from the doorway as Nami turned to see him leaning against it. Just about the past. Nami said. So are you going soon as well? She asked, though Naruto could hear some sadness in her voice as she said that. You could say that. I'll be leaving in the carnival ship with the pirate flag on it, Naruto said, pointing behind him. Nami widened her eyes as he said this. You're coming with us? Of course. Someone has to look after Luffy if you're not around, and I've dealt with him for far longer than you, Naruto said with a smile as Nami laughed and shook her head. Come on, I'll help you with your bag. He then walked over and picked up Nami's bag for her and walked outside. Nami started walking outside. When she stepped outside, she felt someone push her. Shocked, she looked back only to see no one's there. Nami. Nami looked to see Naruto looking at her. Everything all right? Naruto asked. Nami back at the door for a moment before smiling. Nope. Nothing at all, she said as she walked up to Naruto and told him to bend down. Doing as he was told, Naruto bent down as Nami took Naruto's necklace that she still had on out and back around his neck. I almost forgot about this thing. Thanks, Na. He shut up when he felt something warm touch his right cheek and looked without turning to see that Nami had kissed it and continued walking past the blonde. Naruto brought his hand up to his cheek and felt where Nami had kissed it and smiled as he looked up at the sky. Maybe being with Luffy's crew wouldn't be so bad after all, he thought before walking to catch up with Nami. Morning, everyone was gathering at the port to see the Straw Hats off. The crew were loading up supplies on the Going Merry as people were seeing them off and thanking them again for what they did. In front of the big crowd, Naruto was talking with Genzo as he handed him a piece of paper. Here, this is the frequency to a transponder snail that I put on board the Merry. You'll be able to communicate with Nami using this, Naruto said as Genzo nodded his head. Thank you, this means a lot, Genzo said. Naruto nodded his head and jumped on board the Merry. We're almost ready, Captain, Jin said as he stepped onto the deck of the Going Merry with the last crate in hand. All right, Luffy said. Big bro. Johnny and Yosaku's shouting caught the crew's attention as everyone looked to see them both with serious expressions on their faces. What's up, you guys? Luffy asked as Zoro noticed that each of them had some bags next to them. We thought it over, big bro, Johnny said, and we'll be glad to join your crew with you, Yosaku said as the Straw Hats looked at them in shock. Wait, when the hell did you ask them to join your crew? All I saw you do was eat meat and look for it, Naruto asked. I asked them while I was looking for the raw ham melon, and I still couldn't find it, Sanji, Luffy said with a pout. But who cares? My crew just got bigger. He began to laugh out loud around as Johnny and Yosaku grabbed their things and came aboard. I never would have thought that you guys would become pirates, Zoro said. I originally became a bounty hunter because one saved my village when I was a kid, Johnny said. I did it because I wanted to help others like that bounty hunter did. But after seeing you guys fight for a village you owed nothing to, I thought, why not? Besides, you became one and you're okay. Yeah. Besides, being pirate sounds fun. There may be dangers every here and there, but it is still fun, Yosaku said. All right then, Zoro said as went back to work. Well, should we go? Usopp asked, putting the last of the supplies away. Wait, Nami's not here yet, Sanji said. Zoro looked out to the villagers. Maybe she's not coming. Sanji got in Zoro's face. What do you mean? If you're trying to hit on her, I'll break your freaking neck, he yelled. Usopp gained a thoughtful look. Maybe he's right, he said. Sanji stopped yelling at Zoro and stared at him. What do you mean? He asked, lighting a cigarette. I mean, the only reason she was traveling in the first place was to get 100 million berries and free the village, he said to them. She's already done that, there's no reason for her to keep traveling, Usopp finished. The villagers started whispering. Where's Nami? One asked. I don't know, I thought she would be here by now, another said. What? Genzo yelled up to Negico. 100 million berries, she left all of it, he asked. Negico shrugged. She left it all at our house, she replied. She doesn't want at least some of it? Neko asked her. She'll steal more, Negico said. There she is, Sanji yelled, pointing over behind the villagers. Everyone looked and saw Nami looking down at the ground. now wearing a skirt and a plain white t-shirt.
Nami, everyone yelled. Set the sail, Nami shouted from down the road. Everyone looked to see her start running towards them all. What's she doing? Jin asked. She said set the sails. Luffy said, you heard her guys. Cast off.
Aye, Captain, they all said as they started unfurling the sails. Nami, wait, Genzo said as he shoved his way through the crowd. You're leaving without saying goodbye? Nami ignored him as she kept on running.
Let's go, Luffy shouted as the sails caught the wind. Zoro pulled up the anchor and they began to pull away from the port.
Nami, Genzo shouted as Nami was now weaving around everyone in town. Up, down, left, right, running past them all before making a running jump to the ship. She landed on the railing with all the villagers shocked that she would leave without saying goodbye. Nami just stood there before lifting her shirt a bit, letting wallets and coin purses fall around her feet. Huh? Some of the villagers said before they checked their pockets. Hey, my money's gone. A villager said. Mine too, another said.
Nami pulled Berry Note out of a wallet, kissed it, then winked at everyone. Thanks a bunch everyone, she said.
You little thief. Everyone shouted at her before tons of them demanded that she return their stuff. Hey, she hasn't changed at all, Usopp said. I have to watch my back from now on, Zoro said.
I wonder if I should tell her about the money I have on board. Naruto thought with a smile as he shook his head while Luffy laughed. Sanji gave her a thumbs up, Johnny and Yosaku just stared, and Jin looked ready to fall off the boat.
You rotten thief. We'll miss you, the townspeople shouted. Nami waved at them all. Goodbye everyone. Nami shouted to them all. Boys, Genzo shouted, getting Luffy and Naruto's attention. Remember what we talked about? Luffy smiled before giving him a thumbs up and Naruto a two-fingered salute. Nami looked up to Belmir's grave. Well, I'm finally living my dream. See you later, Belmir. Nami thought. She looked back to everyone. All right everyone. It's time to set sail to the Grand Line, she said. Yeah. Everyone shouted. It had been a day since the Straw Hat crew set off from Kokoyashi and everyone was lounging about the ship, doing their own thing.
Jin was in the crow's nest keeping an eye out for any ships or land. Johnny and Yosaku were training with Zoro as the swordsman used his only sword to part their blows. Usopp was making a new Tabasco star. Naruto was sitting on the railings looking out to sea, and Nami was currently arguing with a news coup about the price of the newspaper while Yuki sleeping in her lap. You raised the price again? Nami asked the seagull as it sadly nodded its head. That seems a little high, don't you think? Raise the prices again and I won't buy any next time. The seagull saluted and flew away with Nami looking slightly annoyed. What's the big deal? It's just one paper. Usopp spoke up as he carefully poured the Tabasco. You don't have to save your money up to buy back your village anymore so you can spend as much as you want. You're so stupid, I'm saving money for me now. She threw her arms wide and smiled. I'm not going to be one of those poor pirates who can't even dress up, she finished. Okay. Calm down. Usopp said looking back to her. In the background, Luffy was trying to be sneaky as he tried to get a tangerine, only for Sanji to kick him away right into Usopp, who was splashed in the eyes with his Tabasco star. Can't I have one? Luffy asked as Usopp cried out in pain and ran around the deck. No. Sanji shouted as he stood between Luffy and the trees. These are Nami's tangerine orchard. I won't let anyone lay a finger on them. He shouted before his eyes turned into hearts and he looked at the girl. Nami, can you see how well I'm protecting your trees? Thank you, Sanji. Keep up the good work. Nami called, making Sanji hold his chest as he fell over in happiness. Ah, to be praised by you is nothing short of utter joy, he said. She's got him wrapped around her finger, thought the other crew members. I'm happy, Luffy said before he grinned. Over on the side of the ship, Naruto was sitting on the railings with one foot hanging over the side of the boat and smiled slightly at the crew's actions. The world today is a turbulent place, he heard Nami say before walking over to her and leaned over her shoulder. Another incident caused by the revolutionaries, huh? They are getting more known nowadays, Naruto said as he read the headlines. Revolutionaries, huh? They are a crazy bunch, Nami said as she flipped a page in her newspaper. When she did, a small piece of paper fluttered out, gaining everyone's attention. Luffy, Naruto,
Nami and Usopp watched it flutter to the ground before yelling out. "No way!" Luffy yelled with a huge grin. Back at Marine headquarters, elite officers were gathering in a small room to discuss the affairs of East Blue by Lieutenant Commander Branu. Even though he just created his pirate crew, he has already defeated strong pirates, he said, pointing to the 3 bounty posters behind him. Buggy the Clown. Bounty. 15 million berries. Foul Play Creed. Bounty. 17 million berries. Saw Nose, Arlong. Bounty. 20 million berries, he continued. All strong pirates in their own right, even by East Blue standards where the normal bounty would be 3 million, these 3 are big players, and they were all defeated by the same man. He put up Luffy's bounty. "I know a 30 million is globally unprecedented for a first bounty," he said, looking to the other Marines. "But I think it's best to destroy such evil before he becomes too strong." The Marines nodded at this. Once more we have reports that Uzumaki D. Naruto, also known as Ocean Master, has joined up with him as well. He is the one responsible for the defeat of former Vice Admiral Zeal and helped in the defeat of Arlong. A dangerous man indeed. So it is decided that his bounty would be raised as well. Outside, a bunch of Marines wearing coats with the kanji for justice on the back were standing at attention when a giant Marine with a red hat came out. "If you want to flee, then do so now," he yelled to them. "We are the protectors of peace in this world, and weakness won't be tolerated," he continued. "The civilians count on you to wash away evil from the world," he said, raising a fist in the air. "In the name of absolute peace," he finished.
"Yes, sir," the Marines yelled. "Syrup Village, Miss Kaya, Miss Kaya." A man yelled, barging into a room. The man was a tall, formally dressed butler whose most distinguishing feature is his lamb-themed appearance. His hair is curly like a lamb's fleece and has 2 lamb horns sticking out of it. His lips also resemble those of a lamb's. Even his collar has a fleece around it.
"What is it, Mary?" asked a fairly tall, thin girl with blonde hair looking at a book. "You've got to see this bounty," the now identified Mary said, showing her Luffy's bounty. She looked at it for a second before smiling. "Oh look, it's Usopp," she said as Mary's sweat dropped. "What?" he asked. "Usopp's on that poster," Kaya said as Mary turned the poster around. "Oh yeah, he is there, isn't he?" he asked, seeing the back of Usopp's head. Kaya smiled. "He's finally living his dream," she said, looking out the window. "Oh, speaking of Usopp, he sent a letter," Mary said, handing Kaya the letter. She opened it and read it and smiled. "Usopp just says hi and gave me the frequency to a transponder snail they've just put on the going, Mary," she said with a smile. "Check it out, guys. We're wanted criminals," Luffy shouted out as he held up his wanted poster. Usopp looked at it as Luffy laughed. "Wanted? Dead or alive? Straw Hat, Monkey D. Luffy, 30 million berries?" Usopp shouted in surprise. It had a picture of Luffy grinning at the camera with his eyes closed, making a peace sign. "This is so awesome!" Luffy shouted out. "How can you think that's awesome?" Nami yelled. "Now we'll be hunted by the Marines and bounty hunters." "She's right about that, big bro," Johnny said. "If we hadn't have met you, we'd probably take a crack at turning your head in ourselves," he said as Yosaku nodded. 30 million. Jin said in an impressed tone. "Wow, that's impressive for a first bounty, Luffy. Way to go," Naruto said as Luffy smiled at his praise and Yuki was yipping in the background. "How are you so calm?" Nami asked, ready to lose her mind. "What's everyone yelling about?" Zoro asked as he was woken up from his nap. He was shown the reason as Johnny and Yosaku showed him Luffy's wanted poster. "Oh, is that all?" he said. "Check it out. I'm here too," Usopp shouted out, looking giddy that people around the world would see him. "What?" Sanji said as he looked at it. "Where?" "Right there," Usopp said as he pointed to the back of his head in the poster. "It's only the back of your head," Sanji said as he pouted on the deck. "Don't worry, brother Cook. Just cause enough trouble and you'll eventually get your own," Yosaku said. Sanji cheered up before he started dancing around with Johnny, Yosaku, and Usopp. "Honestly," Nami sighed as she picked up the newspaper only for another paper to fly out on deck. "Huh?" She picked up the paper and read it to herself before gasping and letting it go. "Nami, are you all right?" Naruto asked as he walked over to the girl and gained everyone's attention. "LL, look," She whispered out and pointed at the paper on the ground. Luffy picked up the paper, read it while Usopp, Sanji, Yosaku and Johnny looked over his shoulders and gasped in shock. What? They all screamed as Luffy let go of the paper and it flew into Naruto's hands. Wanted. Dead or alive? Ocean Master, Uzumaki D. Naruto, 125 million berries? Naruto read out in a surprised tone as he looked at his own wanted poster. It had a picture of the left side of his face as he smirked with droplets of water in the background, and he had what looked like a trident-like object resting on his shoulder. I can't believe it went up, this is great, he said in excitement. This is even worse for us now, Nami shouted as she smacked Naruto on the back of the head. That's impressive, big bro, Johnny said. I couldn't believe that someone outside of the Grand Line could get a bounty that high, Yosaku said. It doesn't matter. They all heard Luffy whine. It's not like it matters who has a higher bounty. You're still a bad liar, Luffy, Naruto said teasingly. Meanwhile, Zoro was looking up at the sky. A 30 and 125 million berry bounties. He thought seriously. With bounties that high, the Marine HQ will probably take action. He looked over to the others. And bounty hunters will too. With bounties that high, they'll be strong ones, he finished his thoughts. On the ocean. Meanwhile, out on the ocean a few miles from the Straw Hat crew was an old beat-up marine ship. All the marines were all out of shape or too skinny. Inside sat an average-sized marine that wore a white pinstripe suit. His hair was well combed and he had a scar under his left eye and bolts attached to his knuckles, drinking with bounty posters on the wall. Damn, this cheap drink is making me sick, he said, hiccuping. How I long for the old days where I was surrounded by beautiful women and drank the finest wine, he said, reminiscing. But it all changed when I ran into that waiter, he said angrily. I was demoted from lieutenant and forced to work on this hunk of junk, he said as one of the Marines came inside. Former Lieutenant Full Body, he said, tripping over his feet. Full Body looked on, annoyed. What do you want? I have new wanted posters, sir, the Marine said from his spot on the deck as Full Body sighed. Just put them on the table, he said as the Marine put the posters on the table. It's not like we can do anything anyway, being in the middle of the dam. Full Body stops and his eyes widened when he looked at one of the posters. Flashback. Floating restaurant, Barati. I've never seen that flag before, he said before he held up his hand at them. I'm Marine Lieutenant Iron Fist, Full Body. Who is your captain? I am. My name's Luffy, Luffy said. I'm Usopp. Got it? Usopp said with confidence, as Luffy looked annoyed with him. We got our pirate mark yesterday, Luffy finished. Flashback end. Yeah, that's him. Full Body said. He looked over to the other poster. And it looks like he gained a dangerous new crew member, he said, standing up. This is great. Now I can get these two and get my rightful rank back, he said, running outside. Men, attention, he yelled as the other Marines scrambled in front of him. Listen up, men. We must prepare for battle, he said, arms crossed behind his back. Battle, huh? One Marine asked lazily. Where's this battle at? Full Body gained a thoughtful look. Well, let's see, he said. We could stop by that sea restaurant I was at a while ago, he said as his men started getting excited. Cool, a restaurant, one Marine said. All right, a feast, captain paying, another said. Stop that, Full Body yelled. We're not having a fay. He stopped as a ship went right past him with a skull wearing a straw hat on the sail and flag. He looked and saw Luffy grinning, and Usopp staring at him. That's him, Full Body yelled as they passed him. Men, hard to port, our targets getting away, he yelled to his men as they turned around. Man, that looks like they just came out of battle, it barely floats, Luffy said, looking at the Marine ship. Usopp shook his head. It's a shame, putting scrap ships on the sea, he said as the ship came up beside them. They saw a man in a suit put his foot on the railing. This is not a scrap ship, are you blind? He asked them. How could you forget, Iron Fist, Full Body? Full Body asked, shaking his fist at them. Oh, yeah, you're that Marine I saw, Luffy exclaimed, pointing at Full Body. What's wrong, stranded, need any help? He asked as Full Body gained a tick mark. Stop fooling around, Full Body yelled, holding up Luffy's and Naruto's posters. I'm here to arrest you and Ocean Master, he said with a grin. Luffy just grinned. Yeah, that's me and Naruto. Hey Naruto, come and take a look at this, he said as Naruto made his way over. Huh? He asked. Marines all ready? Man, they work fast? Men, ready the cannon. Full Body yelled as his men got the cannon ready. Huh, what's going on? Nami asked, looking up from the newspaper. Zoro opened his eyes and looked on. Jin looked down at the other ship with a raised eyebrow as Usopp, Johnny and Yosaku looked fearfully. Guess they're going to shoot. Luffy said plainly. They're aiming right at us. This is bad. This is real bad. Usopp repeated. I've got this, Luffy said as he pulled back his arm. Why don't you let me handle this, Luffy? Zoro said behind Luffy, holding his sword. Yeah, let Zoro handle this, you'll just mess this up, Usopp said, pulling Luffy back. Fire. Full Body yelled as the cannon fired. Zoro pulled his sword out and sliced the cannonball in half as it came flying to him, and both halves hitting the ocean. Whoa, that's cool, Luffy exclaimed as Usopp's jaw dropped. I was napping, Zoro said, annoyed, putting his sword back in the sheath. Full Body got at what the swordsman did before gaining a tick mark and looked at the Marines. Well, what are you waiting for? Fire again, he yelled as his men prepared the cannons. That looks bad, Naruto said, looking at the cannon. What is? Usopp asked, arms crossed over his chest, tilting his head. Suddenly the cannon exploded on the Marines' ship. That was what was bad, Naruto said plainly. Their cannon had cracks on it. You're right, that is bad, Usopp said as the smoke cleared to show Full Body and his men covered in soot. You brats don't mock a former Marine lieutenant, Full Body yelled as his ship came to the side of the Going Merry. Former? We'll just go head to head, men follow me, Full Body ordered his men as they jumped onto the Going Merry. Full Body pulled the fist with iron knuckles back as he neared Luffy. Your head is mine, he yelled as he hit Luffy's head. He was surprised when he saw Luffy's head and neck stretched back to the other side of the ship. Gum gum. He pulled his straw hat off and brought his head flying towards Full Body and slammed against his head. Bell. Full Body hit the railing of the ship as Naruto took care of the other Marines, hitting them back onto their ship. What's going on? A voice said. Everyone looked over and saw Sanji walking over without his jacket, wearing an apron. Full Body shrieked at the sight of Sanji. You've got a lot of balls, tough guy, Sanji said to Full Body. Attacking at lunchtime. He continued, glaring down at Full Body. Unless you have a reservation, I'll have to ask you to leave. Full Body screamed while running back to his ship. What the hell is that waiter doing here? He asked as he and his men jumped into the water on the other side of his ship. Well, he's done, Luffy said, fixing his hat. And to the victors go the spoils, Naruto said as he walked over to the Marine ship. What are you doing, Naruto? Usopp asked. Since they jumped ship and left all of this stuff, it's only a pirate's job to plunder them, right? Naruto replied. Besides, we can use the ammo they have for ourselves, so we don't have to buy some when we run out, he finished and started searching around. That's a good idea, Nami said before turning to everyone. Well, don't just stand there, help him out, she ordered as Luffy, Usopp, Johnny and Yosaku ran over to help Naruto as Sanji went back in to finish cooking lunch and Zoro and Jin went back to what they were doing. Unknown Island. Two guys were on a hill overlooking the ocean. One asleep, and the other looking through a telescope. Hey, I see something, the one looking said as the one sleeping got up and walked over. Here, let me see. The other one looked through the telescope and saw a small boat coming towards them. A few minutes later, and more men, a man stepped off the boat. He's a tall and lean man, with black hair, a short beard, mustache and sideburns that point upwards. Wearing a wide-brimmed black hat decorated with a large plume, and a long, open black coat with no shirt underneath, with red, flower-patterned sleeves and collar. Light purple pants held up by a decorated belt and tucked inside overly large boot. With a golden cross-shaped necklace across his neck, and a large sword on his back. What do you want, Mihawk? One man asked the now identified Dracule, Hawkeye, Mihawk. The strongest swordsman in the world. Calm down, I just want to speak to your captain, Mihawk said as the man ran off. Mihawk sighed. Camping out on an island, what a carefree man, Mihawk said calmly, walking in the direction the man ran off. Boss. The man from earlier yelled as he came to a group of people, stopping in front of a red-haired man sitting under an umbrella. The red-haired man wearing a black cloak over his shoulder with a white shirt underneath buttoned halfway, brown trousers, a red sash around his waist and 3 scars over his left eye, and was unshaven with a short, scruffy beard. The man on the ground pointed behind him. Hawkeye is. That's as far as he got when he looked behind him and saw Mihawk standing behind him. Hey there, Hawkeye. The red-haired man said, looking to the ground. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company? Come to fight me. Mihawk just stared at the man. Since you've lost your left arm, I've no intention of settling an old score. Shanks? Mihawk replied, reaching into his coat and pulling out a poster. I came across an interesting young boy who reminded me of someone from your stories. Mihawk said, showing Shanks the poster. A story about a small boy in a small village. Luffy, you've made it. Shanks grinned before he looked to Mihawk. All right, Mihawk, after what you just showed me, I'm afraid I can't let you leave, he said seriously. Fuchsia Village. Outside of a bar, a bunch of villagers were talking and holding Luffy's poster. Did you hear? Luffy's a wanted man now. Wow, a famous pirate came from our small village, ain't that great? What's so great about that? An elderly voice cut them off. Everyone turned and saw an old man with a stripped hat, gray hair, mustache and goatee, yellow buttoned shirt, and brown pants, holding a cane. Come on now, Mayor, you mean you're not happy for Luffy? One villager asked. The mayor walked inside the bar and sat down at the countertop. Bunch of jerks. He grumbled. Just look at him, Mayor, he looks so happy. The barmaid said. She is a young woman with dark green hair, with a yellow kerchief, and a light blue button-up shirt. The mayor snorted, taking a drink. A pirate is a pirate, he said as the woman giggled. I got a letter from Naruto-kun as well. Apparently he's joined with Luffy and put a transponder snail ship so that he and Luffy can talk to us, she said, cleaning a glass. Can't you be happy for Luffy that he's living his dream, she said as the mayor sighed. His dream, or fate, he said, looking up at the ceiling. Sabo de Archipelago. In a bar near the middle of the archipelago, 2 people sat in a booth looking at the newly updated wanted poster of Naruto. The first was a fairly tall, light-skinned woman with brown eyes and straight, waist-length blonde hair with shoulder-length bangs framing both sides of her face, kept in 2 loose ponytails, and had a purple mark on her forehead. She was wearing a grass-green haori with the kanji for gamble written in black on the back, inside a red circle. Underneath she wears a gray, kimono-style blouse, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matches her pants. Her blouse is closed quite low, revealing her sizable cleavage. She wears open-toed high heels and red polish on both her fingernails and toenails, and pink lipstick. The other was a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with black eyes and hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder-length with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. She wore a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. The blonde-haired woman sighed. That Gaki went and got himself in trouble again, she said, drinking out of her bottle. I thought you would be happy, Lady Tsunade. The other woman said. Knowing that Naruto-kun is alive and well, and that he is with people he trusts, makes me feel slightly better. It is nice to hear that he is safe, Shizune, but I hate it when he gains the attention of the world government. Tsunade said, finishing her drink. Naruto will have to watch his back more closely from now on. He should still have the transponder snail we gave him, but I'm sure that if we tell him, he'll just wave it off, tell us he's got it covered, and laugh at us for worrying about him too much. Shizune said, smiling at Naruto's poster. Yeah, Tsunade whispered. You can't blame me though, I am his grandmother after all. But I wonder how he will feel about this. Shizune giggled. He would probably be proud of him for gaining a higher bounty so quickly. Hee, you're probably right, Tsunade said, looking at the poster one last time. Be careful out there, Naru-chan, she said with a small smile. Straw Hat Crew. Achoo. Bless you. Thanks, Naruto said to Usopp as he wiped his nose. Everyone was currently sitting on deck looking at a map with the exception of Yuki, as she was asleep on Naruto's head. We're almost near the Grand Line, Nami said, looking at the map. And it looks like this is the only way in. Reverse Mountain. What a pain, Zoro said as he looked where Nami was pointing. Isn't there's another way in? From what the old geezer told me, there isn't, Sanji said, looking at the map. I can't believe I'm going back to that place again. Jin said as he looked at the map. When I was on Craig's ship we could barely make it in there. Luffy looked at the map. I got an idea. Why don't we just sail straight into it? He said in excitement. Not unless you have a death wish. Naruto said, gaining everyone's attention. The reason why people use reverse mountain is because of the calm belt. The calm belt? What's that? Yosaku asked. It's the main reason why people like us who want to enter the Grand Line can't just sail straight into it. Nami spoke up. The calm belts are two areas that are just north and south of the Grand Line. These areas almost never have ocean currents or winds blowing, and are also nesting grounds for giant sea kings, so we can't go that way. They're very effective barriers for those trying to enter the Grand Line. So, the reverse mountain is the only way for everyone to enter the Grand Line, Yosaku said. Not for the Marines. They have a way to cross the calm belt without being detected, Naruto said, gaining everyone's attention. What do you mean, big bro? Johnny asked. Marines coat the bottom of their ships with sea stone so they can go into the calm belt. Luffy tilted his head. Sea stone? It's a stone that gives off the same aura as the ocean. If someone with devil fruit powers touches it, it takes away their powers and makes it feel like you're in the ocean. Naruto explained. Sea kings can't sense them either, so that's why it's great to attach them to the ship's bottom. The only way they can see a ship is if they look directly at it. He finished as Luffy nodded. Okay. But first we need to stop off at an island. We need more meat, he said as Nami drew everyone's attention back to the map. Then we should stop here, she said, pointing to a small island. It's a famous city known as Loguetown, she said. What's so famous about it? Is it because of their meat? Luffy asked. It's also called the town of the beginning and the end, or so I've heard, Zoro said, leaning against the railing. It's the place where the pirate king, Gold Roger, was born, and where he was executed, Nami said before looking at Luffy. Wanna go? Luffy nodded with a serious look. Yeah, let's go, he said as everyone stands up. This is the man who had the One Piece. I need to see where he was born and executed, Luffy said, looking out to the ocean. Let's set sail. Loguetown. This is going to be fun, Luffy exclaimed, looking at Loguetown. Every pirate here in the East Blue stops here before heading to the Grand Line to stock up, Nami exclaimed, hands on her hip. It has everything you need. If that's the case, I'm going on a shopping spree, Usopp said, looking around. I bet they have all sorts of stuff here, he exclaimed with a grin. If that's the case, then I'll stock up on some fresh produce, Sanji said, taking a drag from his cigarette, and some beautiful women. You'd think there would be a swordsmith around here? Zoro asked thoughtfully. I thought you were broke, Nami teased. Are you going to steal a sword? I sure haven't been here in a while, Naruto said as he and Yuki breathed in the ocean air and exhaled. Well, you wanted to see where Gold Roger was executed, Hey. Where's Luffy? He asked as he wasn't with them anymore. He ran off as soon as we made it here, Jin said as Naruto face-palmed himself. Damn it, and I already know where that platform is, Naruto said with a sigh. Oh well, I'm sure he'll find it, he said, grinning. Where should we all meet up? Jin asked. We'll meet right back here, Nami said, pointing at the sign. Naruto shrugged. Okay, I've got nothing to do here, so I'll just be coming with me. I want some new clothes and I need someone's opinion on them, Nami said as she proceeded to drag Naruto and his fox into town. I'll be on my way then, Sanji said, walking away. I'll go look for some supplies. Usopp said. We'll go with you, big bro, Yosaku said. We still have some money from our old bounty hunting days, so you can use some of it to buy your swords or pay big sis back. Really? Thanks, you too, it means a lot, Zoro said. Lending me some money but paying it back at 300% interest. That woman is the devil. I'll stay here and take care of the ship, Jin mumbled as he looked out to sea. You okay, big bro? Johnny asked. Yeah, just gotta clear my head, he said before they all walked off. Rebecca Hanberg Naruto was waiting patiently inside of a high-class boutique that Nami had spotted, waiting for the girl to him. How she looked. How's this? Nami asked as she exited the dressing room wearing something akin to a corset that showed her midriff, a short dress and a fur coat on. Looks good on you, Nami-chan, Naruto replied with a grin, and Yuki yipped in agreement. Well, Nami went back in before quickly changing and came out wearing a red dress. What about now? Nami said with a grin. Classy. And this? She now was wearing black bra with a similar colored panties. Are you trying on clothes, or trying to seduce me? Naruto said looking at the girl as she went back in to change. Just trying on clothes. She responded. She came back out wearing a plain navy blue, short-sleeved shirt, a dark blue miniskirt with white rings on the sides, and navy blue high-heeled sandals. Will you be purchasing any of these today? The store owner said as Nami shook her head. No thanks. A little too expensive for my taste, Nami said as she and Naruto left. So what should we do now? Not that I care, but I really don't want to spend all of my time here shopping, Naruto said walking beside the navigator. Before Nami could respond, he heard a commotion. Turning around they saw two guys with swords stopping a woman. The woman was average height with dark blue hair, wearing a floral design green short-sleeved shirt, blue jeans, with red-framed glasses, holding a wrapped-up object. Move. The women said plainly. I'm warning you I'm not afraid to fight. The two men laughed. So what? It's your captain's fault that our boss is locked up. We were assigned to bring your corpse to him as proof that we killed you. It's not like you can do anything to us, after all. You are a girl. Both of them said as the woman clenched the object she was holding. The men brought their swords to attack as Naruto was about to intervene until he saw the woman pull out the sword she was holding. As soon as the sheath hit the ground, the two men was unconscious with the woman behind them holding her sword behind her above her head. Wow, she's strong, Nami said looking at the woman. But, those moves. It can't be. Naruto thought in shock as he saw the woman trip up and her glasses fell off. Oh, crap. My glasses. The woman said as she searched for them. Naruto saw that they had landed near him and picked them up and moved towards her. Here, you dropped these, he said as he handed them over. Thank you, she said as she grabbed them and put them on. When Naruto got a better look at the woman he froze. These things really are a bother. Thanks for. Huh? She stopped as she looked at him. Naruto-kun. Tashigi-chan. Marine office. In a marine office on the other side of town was a room filled with smoke so thick you couldn't make anything out inside. Captain Smoker. A marine said coming inside wearing a hat over his black hair. A message from HQ. We've just received word that Monkey D. Luffy and his crew are headed here to Loguetown with a 30 million berry bounty on his head, sir. He finished with a salute. A 30 million berry bounty. I can't wait to meet him, Smoker said with a gruff voice. Sir, this is the pirate who's defeated the pirates Don Krieg, and, Saw knows, Arlong. The marine said. And once more reports say that Uzumaki D. Naruto, whose bounty has been raised to 125 million berries, has also joined Luffy's crew. Naruto? Are you sure about this? Smoker said walking to a window and opening it to let the smoke out, and revealing his form. Smoker is a muscular man with light blue-green hair, smoking 2 cigars at once. Shirtless, wearing blue jeans with a brown belt and large brown leather boots. Yes, sir. The report came in from a Captain Nezumi who witnessed them working together, the marine said as Smoker stared at him. Well, this just got interesting. A pirate with the power to defeat a vice admiral is working under a rookie like Luffy, Smoker said thoughtfully. It won't matter though, Smoker said walking towards his desk. Under my command there hasn't been a single pirate who's set foot on this island and ever left here without shackles. He said putting on a large thick white and blue specialist marine jacket which he kept open with greenish fur lining the neck, wrists and hem. Many cigars are strapped to the jacket which has the kanji for justice on the back of it. He put a jute on his back and put on brown gloves. Another marine came running in. Reporting, sir, he said with a salute. I've just received word that a pirate group has just arrived. Smoker looked to him. You're requested there at once. The marine finished. That must be Luffy and Naruto, the first marine exclaimed. A 30 million and 125 million bounty, huh? Smoker said walking out the door. This'll be interesting, he said thoughtfully. Huh, you say something, sir? The new marine asked. Just talking to myself, Smoker said over his shoulder. Sir, wait. The first marine said as Smoker left. Don't you want these? He said holding up Luffy and Naruto's posers. Port, you all should feel honored.
A tall lanky pirate with gray hair, black mustache, and black-gray goatee wearing a unique-looking tricorn and red coat said. The middle corner of the hat is curved down in a way that it resembles the top half of a crescent moon.
"You've given your stuff to the next king of the pirates," he exclaimed. "Who's in charge here?" a gruff voice said behind the pirates. They all turned and saw Smoker standing there smoking 2 cigars. "Who wants to know?" the pirate asked with a sneer. "So you're Monkey D. Luffy?" Smoker asked. "You're not worth 30 million, you're not even worth the price of my grandmother's fake teeth," Smoker said as the pirate gained a tick mark. "How dare you speak to me like that?" he yelled at Smoker. Suddenly smoke started swirling around Smoker as the pirates looked on, jaws dropped. Nami, Naruto and Tashigi. Naruto, Nami and Tashigi were sitting at a table outside a restaurant with the 2 pirates sitting on one side of the table and Tashigi sitting opposite them. "You transferred here to work under Captain Smoker?" Naruto said in slight shock as he looked at the blue-haired swordswoman. "That's right. While I did like working under Captain Hina, I felt like I should have a change of scenery," Tashigi said. "I'm surprised that you managed to join a pirate crew though. Last time we met you said you normally work alone." "Well, I changed my mind a bit. There's nothing wrong with that." Naruto pouted as Tashigi giggled. Nami was watching the conversation while petting Kichi, who was sitting on her lap sleeping. "So how exactly do you two know each other?" Nami spoke up. "Oh, you don't know? Naruto-kun here helped me some time ago," Tashigi said. "And what did I get in return? A bounty on my head. If you see Hina-chan before me, tell her I said thanks for that, by the way," Naruto said sarcastically. "So by the way you two are acting, you must be close," Nami said as she slowed her petting down. "Sort of, you see," Naruto drifted off. "We went on a few dates before you became wanted. Nothing special," Tashigi finished. "Nothing special, huh? You weren't saying that after our 3rd date, you know?" Naruto said with a knowing grin as Tashigi blushed and looked away. "Really now," Nami said as she felt a pang in her heart. She wasn't jealous about this, was she? "By the way, Naruto-kun, where's Nejibana, twisted flower? You don't have it on you. It's not broken, is it?" Tashigi asked with a slight glare at the last part. "Broken? Guhahaha. That's funny. No, Nejibana is on our ship. I haven't gotten a chance to show the others yet though." Naruto laughed before calming down. "So, who is this Smoker guy anyway?" "Captain Smoker is a Marine who came here straight from Navy HQ. He is one of the strongest Marines I've seen," Tashigi said. "Is he really that strong?" Nami asked as she stopped petting Yuki. "He's one of the strongest Marines here in the East Blue," Tashigi explained. "Ever since he's been stationed here, no pirates who stop here have left." Nami gained a worried expressions. "He's also a Logia-type devil fruit user," Tashigi finished as Naruto and Nami's eyes widened. "A Logia type? You're kidding," Nami said. Tashigi shook her head. "Smoker ate the plume fruit and now he can turn into smoke at will," Tashigi warned them. "If you see him, you should run and get out of here as fast as you can, because he will catch you." Smoker. "Congratulations sir, you've captured Luffy," a Marine said as Smoker looked at the pirates he had just defeated and tied up. "You idiot, this isn't Luffy. Anybody could see that," Smoker said annoyed. "If this piece of trash is worth 30 million, I'd become a pirate." "Well then, where is he?" the Marine asked as Smoker looked down the port. He saw a teen wearing a straw hat, red vest, and blue shorts. "Where's that execution platform? This looks like the docks," he said looking around. The teen spotted Smoker and jogged over waving. "Hey, I need some help." "Do you know where they execute people around here?" he asked as Smoker stared at him. "The platform?" Smoker asked as the teen looked around. "Yeah, I just can't seem to find it," he asked confusedly. "I haven't seen you around here before," Smoker said as the teen grinned. "Yeah, it's my first time here," he said looking around. "The town's bigger than I thought, bigger than Fuchsia Village, that's for sure. I got lost," the teen said as Smoker took a drag from his cigars. "Why do you want to go to the platform?" Smoker asked as the teen looked down, his hat covering his eyes. "Personal quest," he said plainly. "I want to see where the king of the pirates was killed," the teen said with a big grin as Smoker's eyes widened. "I guess you don't know then, oh well," the teen said leaving. Wait. The teen looked back at Smoker. Just follow the smoke, he said as smoke left his mouth floating in a direction to his left. Great thanks, the teen said, running off with Smoker looking at his retreating form. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.